Is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
The Stanley Cup, the oldest and most storied championship trophy in all of sport. The Cup's appearance has changed over the years, but the will that goes into winning a Stanley Cup has not. For nearly a century, the countless memories of Stanley Cup play include teams of dominance, individual greatness, and legendary drama. In pursuit of hockey's holy grail, a team must have talent, but equally as important, have emotional and physical strength to withstand a 2-month odyssey. Today, as the quest for the Stanley Cup begins, the spotlight shines on Mario Lemieux, who, despite battling Hodgkin's disease, has reaffirmed his position as the game's dominant player, inspiring Pittsburgh in his crusade for a 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup. In Chicago, the talented and rugged Jeremy Roenick is the catalyst for the Norris Division champion Blackhawks, who hope to return to the Stanley Cup final and a chance at their first championship since 1961. And the great one, Wayne Gretzky. The majority of his season was erased by injury, but in recent weeks he has elevated his play to the level which helped him win 4 Stanley Cups. But is it enough to bring the Cup to LA for the first time? The Stanley Cup playoffs begin in Pittsburgh, where Tom Barrasso and the Penguins hope to find their way to a 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup title. Some of you will be in Chicago at the stadium, where Brett Hull and his 50-plus goals will lead the Blues against the Chicago Blackhawks. Welcome, everyone, to the Stanley Cup playoffs here on ABC. I'm John Saunders in New York. We'll have scores and highlights between periods, but first, the games. And let's take a look at what the road will look like as they try and head to the Stanley Cup in this, the 100th year. We'll start in the Patrick Division, where the Penguins could tie a playoff record with 12 consecutive victories. The Islanders in Washington, home ice disadvantage, road team won all 7 games during the regular season. Adams Division, Buffalo's last playoff series win, 1983, that over Montreal. And Montreal and Quebec, the road team again, winning 6 of the 7 during the regular season. In the North, Brett Hull just 2 goals against Chicago this year. He'll have to elevate that if he hopes to knock them off. Toronto, Detroit, both teams setting records for points during this season. Detroit 103, Toronto 99. In the Smythe, Teemu Selanne with just 2 goals against Vancouver this year. And Calgary hasn't won a playoff series since winning the Stanley Cup back in 1989. Between periods, we'll get you up to date with what's going on during the Stanley Cup playoffs with scores and highlights. We'll also have a conversation with a new head coach of the New York Rangers, Mike Keenan.
A name, a number, Bobby Hull of Chicago. A presence on the ice that meant goals 3 decades ago. And now a son, Brett Hull of St. Louis. A presence meaning lots of goals. Blackhawk Jeremy Roenick, only 23, born in Boston and a bruiser. But along with all the crashes, there is marvelous skill and thrills for Roenick, as well as the fans inside the raucous house on Madison Street, Chicago Stadium, where he has led his team to a division championship. Roenick awaits Brett Hull and the St. Louis Blues in the 100th annual drive for the Stanley Cup. The first of 5 straight Sunday afternoons of NHL Stanley Cup hockey on ABC. Good afternoon, everyone. Along with Jim Schoenfeld, I'm Mike Emmerich. The Blues didn't even know they'd be here until late Thursday night. The Blackhawks had it figured out back about Christmas they'd be involved. Contrast these 2 teams.
Well, Mike, the Blackhawks are a team that get a lot of scoring chances by getting the puck deep and applying strong offensive zone pressure. Their defensive core, led by Chris Chelios and Steve Smith, deter most opponents from playing the same game against them. They are big, strong, mobile, and they win most of the one-on-one battles in the corners and along the boards. Fortunately for the Blues, they can create scoring chances on the rush with Craig Janney's playmaking ability and resident snipers Brendan Shanahan and Brett Hull.
Well, we got a resident sniper on our team, too. Let's join him downstairs right now, Tom Mees. Thanks a lot, Mike. In the playoffs, you're going to hear a lot about home ice advantage. One of the reasons you're going to hear a lot about it, the home coach, the home team has the last line change. Daryl Sutter can get his guys out to cover the likes of Brett Hull, Craig Janney, and Brendan Shanahan. They're going to need it because those trio have racked up over 300 points in the regular season. Mike? Blues and Blackhawks, finesse against force and intensity building. We'll be back with the Game 1 opening face-off in just a moment.
It is the most celebrated trophy in all of sport. And on this, its 100th anniversary, the celebration will be all the more grand.
The National Hockey League playoffs, brought to you by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. Welcome back, everyone, to New York. We'll get you out to the game in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at that Norris Division matchup. The Chicago Blackhawks, first place, will face Chicago. The 9th playoff meeting, St. Louis against them. Chicago leading 7-1 in the series. The last meeting was the 1992 Norris semifinal. Chicago winning that 4-2. 3-3-1. Brett Hull, though, with just 2 goals against Chicago this season. He obviously has to get it going. Brett Hull with a slow start, but he still finished with 50+. He'll have to get it going to knock off Chicago. There are games tonight as well, and we will, of course, get you updated on what they are. Los Angeles Kings and Calgary Flames. That one at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Gretzky, the all-time playoff points leader, looks like he is back in full swing as he leads them against Calgary. Meanwhile, the New York Islanders will face the Washington Capitals. The Islanders with the win on the season finale against New Jersey. That enabled them to avoid the Pittsburgh Penguins, but still they have to go up against the Washington Capitals on the road. That's at 7 o'clock tonight. Then the Sabres and the Bruins. The Boston Bruins with another terrific year, and that advantage of that short rink up there in Boston. That at 7 o'clock Eastern time against the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo, no playoff series win since 1983. The Montreal Canadiens and the Quebec Nordiques. La guerre civile, they call it, the Civil War. As the Canadiens face the Nordiques, the road team won 6 of the 7 regular season games. This one at 7:40 Eastern time. They'll play that one tonight. Between periods, as I mentioned, we will be back with scores and highlights. We'll also hear from Mike Keenan, the new head coach of the New York Rangers. Right now, let's send you back to Chicago Stadium.
The customary sellout crowd is on hand, and when you go to an NHL playoff game, chances are you will find a Sutter somewhere. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Mees. Behind the bench coaching the Blackhawks today, Daryl Sutter. Also playing for the Blackhawks today, Brent Sutter. Playing for the St. Louis Blues, his brother, Rich Sutter. Now, last year in the playoffs, these two got after each other pretty good. And head coach Daryl Sutter, the Chicago Blackhawks, told us yesterday they may well do that again today. And if they do, it could give one team an advantage.
No, I think that's all the better. I think that something that we've learned in the past here is that when you play against your brother, you play harder against them, and it should trickle down and have an effect on the rest of your players.
Most people think this is going to be a long playoff series, even though you have the first-place Blackhawks taking on the fourth-place Blues. The key men to watch in the nets that could even up everything, Ed Belfour, the Chicago Blackhawks, and Curtis Joseph, who's been hot as a firecracker for the St. Louis Blues. Chicago Stadium. It opened in 1929 with a light heavyweight boxing match, and there's going to be a lot of hitting today on the ice. It's not as big as most surfaces in the National Hockey League, but as players say, you can't get up to play in this building. You just can't get up, period. I'll tell you who's up. They call the game today, Mike Emmerich and Jim Schoenfeld. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Tom. 2 guys will start this thing wearing 30 pounds of equipment this afternoon. They are the goalies. Curtis Joseph, 25, out of the University of Wisconsin, a 4th-year pro. This is his 23rd consecutive start. At the other end of the short ice surface, Ed Belfour, 28 this Wednesday, University of North Dakota, a 6th-year pro, his 22nd start in 23 games. The guy in charge of the game today is Kerry Fraser. He will be dropping the puck. It'll be between Brett Sutter and Craig Janney. It takes 16 wins to get the cup. The Blues and the Blackhawks are underway, going for one. Marchment pitches it in, and Joseph stops for Jeff Brown. Hit by Graham. Janney trying to knock it along, and battling for it is the captain, Dirk Graham, and then along for Brent Sutter. Janney trying to lock him up. Graham comes by as well. Greg Janney along the board. Sees Brent Sutter emerge with it again. The Blues started Basil McRae as a winger today to try to help counter the Hawk hit attack. It was tilted to go on Greg Janney and Brett Hull. But it hasn't been hitting that the Blackhawks have had to do just yet. Just that one big hit by Dirk Graham. The battle continues. There'll be a lot of these on the wall in close quarters today. Graham off of Lemieux. Garth Butcher. And finally a possession for St. Louis, but Marchment makes them chase it right back again. Pressure, and the Hawks come right out the way we expected. They get the puck deep. And Dirk Graham with a big hit. They come up with possession and just outline the Blues in the first half. Steve Smith put it right toward his own goalie. Good bump that time on Joe Murphy by Bob Bassett. Let's not forget the Blues have their hitters too. And here's one through to Murphy. On the way to Larmer. Larmer controlling. Shoots one that went wide. Rebound taken by the defense. Rick Sombo. On for Bassett, then on for Richardson. The Blues line up today because of the shoulder injury. Sombo with it, backhands one, and that one went off Kevin Miller. Sombo again shoots, and that one deflected to the glass. Joe Murphy just pops it back out, went out of play, and so play is stopped in a minute 41 gone here in the third period. No score. Well, a good start for Darryl Sutter's Chicago Blackhawks. This is his first game in the head box. Way up through the ranks. He was a captain, he was a coach, assistant coach, and he won a championship for the Hawks minor league affiliate of the NHL, and for that he was awarded the Coach of the Year. He seems well under control, and he likes what he sees early in this game. Well, you like a captain who will lead with example, and Dirk Graham did just that on the first shift. Brian Marchment kept the puck into the blue line, he threw it in, and Graham wasted no time making the Chicago physical presence felt here in the stadium. 51-goal scorer, Brendan Shanahan, number 19 for the Blues, is out to take the draw. He has Emerson and Denny Beltner out of the University of Michigan alongside. Cantal and Murray Barrett back on defense. It is Graham's unit out again, along with Rutu and Greg Gilbert. Dirk Graham plays the wall. Felstner in to jam it along. Rutu burrows in for it. Rutu trying to turn away when Graham comes by. Felstner for Emerson and back out. Firing it back across. The Blackhawks are very concerned about taking unnecessary penalties. Last year in the first 4 games, they were shorthanded 29 times. They did win the series in 6. They were down 2 games to 1 at one point, and largely because of that penalty. A shot, a save by Joseph, and a penalty coming up. Forwards buzzing around a little too much for the Blue defenders to handle. Take a penalty to slow them down. Gary Frazier issuing the first penalty of this series, and it's going to go to Brendan Shanahan. And there's a big save to keep the score at 0s by Curtis Joseph. And here's Shanahan. He's going to reach out and try to bring the Hawk forward Gilbert in front of the net. And he reaches in, and for the next 2 minutes, he'll sit on the holding line and goal by the Chicago Blackhawks. One of hockey's unique facets. You can play a man short or 2 men short, and what a challenge that presents. But there was no better team in the regular season in killing off penalties than Brendan Shanahan's squad. Sutter with Roenick. Steve Smith back at one point. Chris Chelios, as usual, back at the other, and the other forward for the Blackhawks is Joe Murphy. The penalty killers are Wilson and Kevin Miller, Brown and Butcher. Steve Smith controlling for the Blackhawks. Drives the wood. Around past Roenick. Kicked to the corner by Wilson. Battle continues in front of this man. Moves in and breaks one that went wide. Chelios for the Blackhawks to Smith again. Over for Brent Sutter. 4-man defensive box pretty well set up. Roenick pass and Sutter at left. Drilled back along by Smith, but that pops into the seats.
Mike, the Hawks are looking for the cross pass. They're going from the defenseman down to Cronin, hoping that Cronin can get it through the goaltender's crease over to Joe Murphy. The shot Smith took had no one in front of the net. The puck came back along the point again. He wisely elected not to shoot as both boards were set up to the side of the net. They're going to take point shots. They want people set right in front of Curtis Joseph.
See the impressive numbers of Jeremy Roenick? When that four-man defensive block sets up, Jim, do you always want to try and get a guy inside of it?
You want to make sure you can have one player isolated. If you go to the front of the net and the defenseman has to take you, if you move into the heart of the box, someone has to go out of position to get you, and it creates a 4-on-3 rather than a 5-on-4 situation for the power play.
Nearly halfway through this power play as Rich Sutter is able to send it back down. Ed Belfour sets and Smith takes. No change thus far among the Hawks out on the ice. Back up they bring it with Smith. Move on. Joe Murphy able to dodge one. Joe Murphy a shot! Joseph. Taken by Dave Lowry and sent all the way back down.
I don't think Joseph saw that shot at all. He was screened by his defenseman, and it stung him a little bit off the shoulder, Mike.
It is Rutu. Cross down to Chelios. Down to the last 30 seconds of the first power play of the series. Marker with a big shot. Ball off by Joseph. Held along by Sambo and whipped by Miller and through Marchment and back down. Hawks are now making a change in shift for the last rush on this power play. They're down to the last 20 seconds. Moving ahead, it's Marchment. Down to the ice with Marchment. He's not getting out. Puck sent around behind. It is Rutu. Marchment trying to stagger off the ice. Brown then back over for Rutu again. Rutu back to Keith Brown. Brown just shoveled a prayer in front that's knocked down by Jeff Brown, and then a shot that went wide. Steve Larmer, Keenan hurrying wide, and that one fluttered wide. Drilled back down by Jeff Brown. Penalty time is up, and the teams are now back at full strength. 15-15 to go, first period. Game 1, best of 7. Blues and Blackhawks, and they're scoreless. Basil McRae bringing it on, trying to get by Brown. Return to Chicago Stadium in just a moment.
This afternoon's official Blackhawks hockey program.
Brian Marchment just took a big hit from the Blues' Kevin Miller. And it looked like knee on knee. You see Marchment coming now right in the center of your screen. In comes Miller. And for a little while, the Chicago fans collectively held their breath. But Marchment went to the bench. He came out. He tested a little bit. He's on the ice for this shift. A good break for the Hawks defenseman.
Indeed it is. Marchment paired up with Chris Chelios from this face-off, kept alive by Ken Tao. Belfour scooped it along. Basil McRae there to play it. And he couldn't get to it. Hit by Marchment. Hull tried to center, and that one tapped out of the air. Good backhand attempt by McRae, and Hull around in front, but trapping it is at Belfour. Hit by McRae.
Basil McRae trying to stir things up for the Blues. Went right to Marchment, threw a little shoulder or elbow into his chin, and he upset Belfour a little bit. You see Marchment after his hit, he's running around a little bit, and now the Blues scramble in front of the net. The save is going to be made by Belfour right here, and if you watch from the left of your screen, you'll see McRae coming in. A little shot, Belfour doesn't like that, and there's the elbow just off screen into Marchment's jaw. He's a rough and tumble guy, and he sacrifices himself a lot for any team he's on. He's a great teammate to have. He doesn't mind getting his nose a little dirty if it will stir his team up.
This is a man that has come back from a lot of adversity this year, a broken leg and a scrap here at Chicago Stadium with Stu Grimson when he was a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He has moved from team to team because he is a player of such value and such specialty that clubs feel they have to have him. It's not necessarily that he fights, although he will do that, but it has to do with the fire that he brings and how annoying he can be to the opposition. But today he is a bear protecting the two rabbits. In deep to get it is Murray Barron. And an icing touch-up. Puck shot over half the rink and touched first by the opposition, in this case Barron and the Blues.
Bob Berry has done a tremendous job with these St. Louis Blues, especially on their special teams. Power play 3rd overall to end the regular season, penalty killing #1. He took over the team after only 11 games. He's a 10-year veteran, so he knows his way around the league and certainly around situations like this. But when he took over, this team for a long time was dead in the water. His patience and perseverance paid off, and the Blues now have a chance at the Stanley Cup because they are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And once you're in, anything can happen, Michael.
There are other games going on today. Let's check that Budweiser scoreboard. The Pittsburgh Penguins have struck first against the New Jersey Devils. Later on this afternoon, the Kings will be playing in Calgary, and 3 contests will be held tonight. False start on the faceoff. 14 minutes and 23 seconds to go. First period here at Chicago Stadium. No score in our contest. Jocelyn Lemieux tried to tip that one ahead. It went off Zombo, followed up by Steve Smith. Went to the Roenick side of the ice with the pass. Denny Beltner back to play it. Bumped by Lemieux. Popped back to Craig Muni. Shoots one to Joseph. Rebound! Made by Joseph on Lemieux. And we get a stoppage of play and a penalty being assessed by Kerry Fraser.
Joseph comes up with 2 saves on the tip and then on the rebound. Lemieux showing good hands in front of the net. Curtis Joseph again. Here comes a point shot from Muni. This is a good low shot. You'll see that Jocelyn Lemieux is set up for the tip. And now Joseph's looking for it. He can't find it, but he recovers in time to get the glove down and stop Lemieux's backhand. And then Lemieux is pulled to the ice by Rick Zombo. And Zombo is making his way to the penalty box. Zombo with an interference penalty on Jocelyn Lemieux in the crease, and that's not a bad penalty. When you have someone that dangerously close to scoring a goal in that area, you got to get him down, get him out of the way any way you can, and Zombo just grabbed Lemieux and threw him to the ice.
So Rick Zombo, the local boy from Des Plaines, Illinois, will look on from the penalty box of the NHL rink where he saw his first game, Chicago Stadium. Smith to Chelios, cranks a shot, deflected wide, rebound off the iron. Around behind, played by Murphy to the back to Chelios again. Hands back from Murphy, but Kevin Miller broke it up, and Brett Hedican can clear it back down.
Good shot selection there by Chelios, with Brent Sutter standing right in front of the goaltender Joseph, screening, and there for a rebound if there's going to be one.
Roenick drops back off for Murphy. Looks for Roenick. Feed for Brent Sutter, but he fanned. And dumped back out. They check the clock. No change made by St. Louis. 40 seconds gone. Down to the ice went Kevin Miller. Play continues, and I think the Hawk fans feel they've gotten a break. Back on now with it is Roenick. Jeremy Roenick trying to work his way in. Back now for Smith. Over for Chelios. Smith again. Shoots, deflected wide. Boy, they've done a good job of setting up their men in front, the Blackhawks have, and they've gotten some deflections. The closest was one rebound by Brent Sutter that went off the goal post. Chelios to Smith. 45 seconds left on this man advantage for Chicago. No score in the game, 12:40 to go in the first. Jeff Brown on an icing touch-up.
In the first 5 regular season games, these teams, the Hawk power play was 1 for 27. Then they seemed to figure things out. The last 2 games, they went 6 for 12, so it'll be interesting to see whether that kind of power play efficiency continues throughout the playoffs in this series. Well, Chelios does just about everything for the Chicago team. He's a tremendous puck mover. He's very strong, mobile. Here comes a big shot from the point. He gets the puck away quickly, and it's always on net. And another chance at a tip, and it'll look right there like Brett Sutter hit the post on the rebound off the boards. But Chelios is Mr. Everything to the Chicago blue line.
Another Chicago boy, Chris Chelios. Looking on now that there's been a line change. 40 seconds still to go on the Blackhawks power play. They've outshot St. Louis in this first period 5-1. Keith Brown and Marchment will handle the point positions inside the blue line once they get it set up. Christian Route 2 plays the hard around, but a soft one stopped by Joseph and drilled back through. So Ed Belfour must handle. Swings it on the turning stick of Brian Noonan. And he gave it up to Miller. Miller checked by Brown, coming by as Noonan again, trying to make up for that mistake. Turning it along for Marchment. 10 seconds to go on the power play. Blackhawks fans getting restless. Moving it ahead is Marchment across to Keith Brown, headmanned on to Ruutu. Eyed up by Jeff Brown of the Blues. Wristed one, and it went well wide. Big hit by Butcher that time on Noonan. Janney steps to it, getting there first is Ruutu. Penalty box is empty again. Puck to the back to Brown. Big shot by Lumber, he scores!
From Jeff Brown gives the Hawks a 1-0 lead. A good play at the blue line started this, as Brown will keep the puck in right here. He's going to go glove stick. That's not an easy play to make, folks. There's the pass to Larmer. He sets it up through the screen and over the shoulder of Curtis Joseph. A good play by two Hawks, Brown on the blue line, and Larmer with that shot over the shoulder of Curtis Joseph.
8-17. Blackhawk goal scored by Larmer, assisted by Brown at 8-17.
8 minutes and 17 seconds had elapsed when Larmer got his opening playoff goal. 1 assist on the play. They can award 2, but only 1 this time to Keith Brown. It is Craig Janney bringing it on. Drops it for Hull, but that canceled out by Jocelyn Lemieux. 1-0 Blackhawks ahead. They scored on their 6th shot. The Blues, thanks in part to 2 penalties, have only had 1 shot on Ed Belfour. Graham just missed for Troy Murray down. And again an icing touch-up. 11 minutes and 4 seconds to go in the first period. Larmer's goal, the only one. Steve Larmer, the only goal scorer so far. 11-year Blackhawk veteran. 884 straight games played, and in the small confines here, to have avoided injury for 10 and a fraction seasons is really an accomplishment, let alone all of the goals he scored. Marchment put it in the seats, and so play stopped again.
Well, Steve Larmer has the opportunity with a healthy season next year to be the all-time leader in consecutive games played. Right now he's 3rd on that list behind Gary Unger, and who is retired St. Louis Blue, and the assistant coach of the now Dallas Stars. And if you can give me his name, because it's failing me, Doug Jarvis. Thank you very much, Michael. Larmer leads the team. He and Christian Ruutu lead the team in game-winning goals, and he is the team leader also in short-handed goals. So he does an awful lot of good things offensively for this Blackhawk team.
Jarvis was quite a specialist, especially in checking during his career, and Gary Unger was one of the flashy scorers of the game. Running and flying. That time went Miller, and a freight train from Russell, and a hit from Murphy. It is Roenick spinning. Keith Brown was not able to hold it in. Let's return to our studios now, and John Saunders.
Thanks, gentlemen. The Devils and the Penguins at it early here. Watch Jaromir Jagr with a nice move around Scott Niedermayer. He feeds Mario Lemieux, and bingo. He's not going to miss too many right there. The Penguins leading 2-1. 9 minutes to go in the first period. Mike and Jim.
Well, there's the leading scorer and point getter for the Chicago Blackhawks, but that's not all he does, folks. He is a feisty competitor, and if he has a chance to run you over, he's going to do precisely that as he makes the St. Louis Blues, Miller, pay the price for getting in his way.
We mentioned an offside just now. That's what brought about the neutralized faceoff. The puck must precede the attacking team over the blue line. So you couldn't station guys back in there deep. It would disrupt the flow of the game because the opposition would have to station a guy back there to watch him. So everything has to be in order when you come over that last blue line. Brendan Shanahan brings it on. He's got Rich Sutter breaking, and a shot is saved by Belfour. Rebound jammed along for Larmer. Whipped it back down, and Garth Butcher will go back to get it, but this will be an icing. Now they've canceled that out, feeling that Butcher should have gotten there before it went over the line. Steve Smith drilled it into Nelson Emerson. Belstner hustling for that, but Smith just flicked it out. Garth Butcher pops one back in. 1-0 Chicago ahead on a goal by Steve Larmer from Keith Brown at 8:17 of the period. We've played 10.5 minutes. 6 shots on goal for the Blackhawks and 2 for St. Louis. Stefan Cantal. Nelson Emerson trying for Felstner, but the pass went across 2 lines. Catch more playoff action Tuesday on ESPN as the New Jersey Devils take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. And next Sunday, ABC Sports continues coverage of hockey's ultimate goal. Live regional action begins at 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central.
Well, as we expected, good goaltendings at both ends of the arena. Belfour coming up with that last save, a shot by Shanahan that was deflected off the skate, changing direction off the skate of Craig Muni, and he had to come up with an alert save for the Blackhawks.
When does the adrenaline rush that all players seem to have before a first playoff game subside, or does it ever during the game?
It doesn't. I mean, I think you're always up. The intensity level is raised with every game, and certainly the further you advance in the playoffs, the intensity level rises even more. So by the time you get to the finals, you need 2 or 3 months to recover, because physically and emotionally you are totally spent. But once the game starts, it's business as normal. You've trained all your life to do this, and the players do it extremely well.
Jeremy Roenick just hit Rich Sutter over at the St. Louis bench. Back on now comes Murphy. Joe Murphy trying to work his way through, can't do it. Zombo there, penalty coming up. It's going to be on the Blackhawks. A delayed penalty call. Curtis Joseph heads for the bench. As soon as the Blackhawks touch, the play will be whistled dead, but they haven't yet, so the Blues can attack. It's Basson feeding all the way to the back. Zombo a shot in front, directed by Hull, but that blocked down. The Hawks touch, and they'll be shorthanded when we come back to Chicago Stadium.
Joe Murphy sitting out the next 2 minutes in the penalty box for high sticking. You'll see him come in here. He's going to lose the puck. And as Zombo takes the puck, the stick will come up around the shoulders right there. Kerry Frazier is right there to watch it. And then as the goalie was pulled to give the extra attack, a big save here by Belfour on the backhand of Brett Hull.
The Blues power play was excellent during the regular season. 3rd. But the Hawks penalty killers were also tremendous. They tied for 2nd. And that's in a league of 24 teams. Brendan Shanahan is out along with Emerson and Hull and Janney and Brown. Larmer and Brent Sutter up front. Smith and Chelios in back for the Blackhawk penalty killers.
The Hawks scored 14 shorthanded goals this season, and Nelson Emerson on the right point for the Blues is a forward. That's an advantage. If the Hawks get possession through the neutral zone, they'll try to key on Emerson. He's not as good at playing a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1 as a natural defenseman would be. So look for guys like Larmer and Ruutu to take advantage of that situation.
Emerson tripped up, but Ruutu sends it down. And when you're shorthanded compared to the opposition, sending it over half the length of the rink is not icing. That's one of the strategies you want to employ when you're killing. Here's Emerson again with 7.5 to go in the first period. 1-0 Blackhawks. And the Blues halfway through the power play. Shanahan got a good one away, but Ed Belfour could see it all the way.
That's a good point. He can see it in a goaltender like Belfour or a goaltender like Joseph. If they can see the shot, they are not screened and they're not hindered. They're going to come up with more saves than they won't. And here you see from a goaltender's perspective, he's watching the play develop. In comes Brendan Shanahan, and he finds the puck as Brett Hull's coming in for a rebound. Belfour very wisely holds on for the whistle.
There was a player here named Bobby Hull we alluded to earlier, Brett's father, who was at one time speed timed with a slap shot of 103. Now the timers are better, but if you consider maybe a little factor of error in there are guys that are shooting 105 and 6 these days, and not just 1 or 2 of them.
Well, it's just the natural progression. Players are bigger, stronger, and faster with every generation.
Ruutu trying to clear. Hull fought it away. Brendan Shanahan takes it. It is Janney. Hull. Brown. And a save made by Belfour. Chelios scoops it to Dirk Graham, and he sends it down.
Great strength by Chelios. He just out-muscles the St. Louis forward. Gives his team a chance to get possession and get the puck out of harm's way.
22 seconds still for the Blues on this power play. 6:50 left in the first. 1-0 Blackhawks ahead on Steve Larmer's goal. Jeff Brown brings it on. Smith able to stop him. Steve Smith trying once more, and the puck trickled in, but it would have been an offside had the Blues taken it. Murphy lifts it back, and that's it. The Hawks are 1 for 1 on kills. Rich Sutter could not stop that one. Hustling back is Muni. But Keith Brown is the one who actually got there first. Icing. On Saturday, ABC Sports rolls in with the crown jewel of the Pro Bowlers Tour. It's the Firestone Tournament of Champions at 3 p.m. Eastern. Then at 4:30, ABC's Wide World of Sports features Shannon Miller's remarkable gold medal winning performance at the World Gymnastics Championships. Plus, from Hawaii, go bodyboarding on the Bonsai Pipeline. Sounds like something you might like to do.
My body's too sore to do something like that. There's a guy that might do it, rough and tumble Bob Basson. When you talk about a guy that gives you a day's work every time he comes onto the ice, who can play in any arena against any opponent, you don't have to look for anyone different than number 28 for the St. Louis Blues, Bob Basson.
I don't think any of those bodyboarders ever coached a team in the playoffs or played in the NHL 13 years or has a record album, and you have all 3 of those.
Our record album. You have to bring up all these bad things from my past, huh?
It is Brown wrapping, and Roenick trying to get to the front. Jeremy Roenick with a pass that was tipped by Miller. Regathered, though, by Murphy. Couldn't swagger his way by Hedican. Larmer on over to Roenick again. Jeremy Roenick. Everything seems to go to him, doesn't it? Backhands one wide. A lot of fancy moves by Roenick, and he did get a shot away. One-timer by Larmer is shanked down by Zombo, but grabbed by Curtis Joseph.
One area where the Blackhawks dominate the St. Louis Blues is in man-on-man coverage in the attacking zone. They feel that one-on-one they can beat the Blues to the puck, they can out-muscle them. And you talk about offensive zone pressure. This is textbook.
Miller.
You watch Larmer, the puck's always going to find him, or he's going to find the puck. Jumps into the hole. Now watch him stop, start trying to shake the check. Very tough guy. He turns Zombo in knots. It's just very difficult to defend against a team that skates well, is good at stopping and starting, has good lateral movement, and has the ability and the willingness to work as hard as the Blackhawks have to work to make good things happen offensively.
Mike Liud, a goaltender, once said, people with low pain thresholds don't play hockey, they play piano. See a little pain there? The 5th nose break of Roenick's career occurred recently in a game against Minnesota.
It hasn't hurt his looks very much, Mike.
Not at all.
No. Gives him a little character.
Shoveled back for Russell, trying to kick it along. Has to retreat now. Philippe Bozon comes by and closes him off, and then a little extra freight train hit from Stu Grimson. And a crowd has gathered.
Well, there haven't been too many scrums, but it didn't take long for all 10 players to get involved in this one. Grimson with a bit of a late hit, just letting the Blues know when he's on the ice, they'd better keep their head up. Here's the action along the boards. There's Big Grimson coming right down, and he's just looking. There's the first hit by the Blues on the Hawks cam. Russell, and in comes Grimson with a big hit. And Bozon grabs on. In comes Dave Lowry. Pushing and shoving, a little bit of hockey jargon thrown in there. No one any worse for the win.
Well, Stu's crew looks down to see him in the penalty box. The biggest of the Hawks at 6'5", 220 pounds. He'll look on at the Blues' second power play. Both teams have now had 2.
The Hawks were the most penalized team during the regular season, averaging 28.5 minutes in the box per game. That is a lot, and that's something they're going to have to temper in the playoffs. The Blues, as you mentioned, Mike, had the third best power play, so you don't want to give them enough opportunities. 5-on-5, I think the Hawks are the better team. The way they'll get themselves into trouble is taking a lot of bad and careless penalties, and I'm sure Daryl Sutter will make his team know that, and they'll settle down, play a strong, hard game, but not a foolish game.
Brendan Shanahan turns with this. Drops it over for Jeff Brown to play it around the wall. Janney is there. Knocked away from him, but right up to Nelson Emerson out of Bowling Green. Across for Brown. Shot, and it's snared by Belfour.
Good shot by Brown. He's one of the underrated defensemen in the National Hockey League. He means an awful lot to the Blues power play. He's great in their defensive zone, getting the puck, moving it out, getting the forwards on the attack. And watch how quickly he's going to pull this puck to change the angle and snap a good wrist shot towards the goalie. That was long side. That was going maybe into the long side corner. And we'll see Belfour watching it here. Quick left-hand glove. Belfour out on top of the crease. Good positioning for that shot. Not giving Brown an awful lot to shoot at. And you see his numbers there. 25 goals this season. And that's second among NHL defenders. A real good season for an underrated player, Jeff Brown.
Blackhawks have killed off 35 seconds out of the 2 minutes on the boarding minor to Stu Grimson. Clock ticks down to 4:35 left in the first. Blackhawks ahead by a score of 1-0. Wrapped around to Steve Larmer, who has the game's only goal. Chelios with some trouble on Shanahan's checking. Janney puts it right behind. Shanahan back to him. He looks to the point, but deals to Shanahan. Hull in front. Gives to Janney. A shot went high. Centered across the goal mouth wide by Shanahan. Nelson Emerson flips it along, but this one is brought back up by Smith. Couldn't get by Emerson. 45 seconds to go on the Blues power play. Nelson Emerson looking for an opening, doesn't have it. Jeff Brown drills it back around. Chelios watches as it comes to Janney. Couldn't reach it on the pass. Brett Hull hit behind by Chelios, and Chelios able to force it to the boards. Emerson pitches it right back in, and Chelios strong on defense, able to throw it back out. Brown with 20 seconds to go on the man advantage. Dirk Graham unable to finesse by. Good work by Emerson. In deep, Janney. Couldn't reach that one. Miller tried, but it's swept away by Brent Sutter and back down.
Good possession by the Blues, but only one real good scoring chance. The Hawks did a pretty good job of killing that penalty, Mike.
They are 2 for 2 on kills. A shot by Rich Sutter. A rebound, and Belfour got them both. First Sutter, then Miller. 1-0 Hawks.
Ed Belfour comes up with a big save off Rich Sutter, but he fails to control the rebound, and you'll see Miller coming in very dangerously. Belfour does the splits to make that save to keep the score at 1-0 for the Hawks.
Bob Basson to take the face-off. A stick is broken, and it's Basson's. He'll try to pick up one from the bench as play swings back that way, and he's got it as Gilbert sent that one back around. Basson with the fresh stick from the bench. Couldn't get it, and it's passed in front, but away from Graham. Cam Russell angles one off the glass. Play tends to funnel behind or toward the net here at Chicago Stadium with the narrow corners. A centering pass from Ruutu is grabbed and brought back up ice by Murray Barron. One-time Philadelphia Flyer defenseman. Barron with a freight train hit, sending Russell sprawling. A drive by Butcher went off Graham. Greg Gilbert looks out but can't get the pass through to Ruutu, and it's across 2 lines. Let's check out the Budweiser scoreboard. Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, they have completed the first period, and the Penguins, who entered the playoffs on an 18-game unbeaten string, have the lead over the New Jersey Devils. A little later on, Los Angeles and Calgary, like this series, it was 3-3-1 in the 7 regular season games. And you see tonight's action. Wonder if the Islanders in Washington are going to sign a pact about not playing 4 overtimes in this playoff series. 1987, they went to a 7th game, and it took from 7:30 until 10 minutes until 2 in the morning for that thing to be decided.
That's not only hard on the players, that's very hard on the broadcasters, Mike.
It is indeed. Pat LaFontaine, who's now with Buffalo, is the guy that won it for the New York Islanders. And they went on to play Philadelphia. And it took them to 7.
And he's won the hearts of everyone in the city of Buffalo. He's had just a tremendous year there this year.
They have forgotten about your days there already?
Oh, the day I left.
Chelios went down. Puck lifted on. Chris Chelios back to get it again. Big hit on him by Lowry. Bozon comes in, and Chelios must have known he was coming because Bozon went down. And out of that scrum, finally play is stopped.
Well, you know, the Blues are going to want to key on Chris Chelios. He's a big part of this Hawk defense, but you don't very often catch Chelios with his head down. You don't catch him unaware. He has pretty good vision of the ice, and if you're coming, he's going to brace himself. As he does there, that's a bump, but he's okay. He has good body position. That one hurt a little bit from behind. But Chelios is so strong. He has such great balance and great leverage on his skates. He's a tough guy to knock down, never mind knock off the puck.
Coming up, we'll join John Saunders for the Dodge Intermission Report, and he will have highlights of the one other game underway this afternoon. The Devils playing the Penguins in Pittsburgh. That season series, they played 9 games. Pittsburgh won 6. The Devils took 2 in one tie, and Tom Barrasso, who's the guy who's led the Penguins to 2 straight championships, was the goalkeeper in all 9 of the regular season games.
Boy, has he ever matured since he went to Pittsburgh. He just grew into that position, and he has become one of the premier goaltenders in the National Hockey League.
Darryl Sutter and Bob Barry, nothing mysterious about their goaltending choices. They went with the guys they went with all year long. Brett Hull. Hedican off of Hull to the corner. Hull wheels one high off the chest of Belfour. Brett Hull once again, another shot, and that one low. Just like his father used to do here. The first one high and the second one low, and Matteau rolls it back down.
Well, for most people, they are bad angle shots, but not for Brett Hull because he makes sure he gets it on the net. The danger with a shot like that is if you miss long side, that puck goes around the boards and out into the neutral zone, and you trap your own forwards. When Hull winds up, he usually hits his mark.
Down goes Noonan. Off will come a blue, but right now the delayed penalty call, and then it's whistled down. So the Blackhawks will go to the power play again with 1:14 to go in the first, and they're ahead 1-0.
Well, the Blues' Rick Zombo knew he was going to get the call here. He's upset at himself. He thinks, well, I'm going to go to the box. Maybe I'll get a little extra shot in here. And he gives a cross-check. And he's fortunate that he did not get both penalties called because that was a pretty good shot to the back of Noonan. And there's Zombo. He's off for holding, pulling Noonan to the ice. And Bob Barry has his team playing pretty well. This is a pretty good road game for the Blues. Of course, you need good goaltending. They've got that. But to hold the Blackhawks to 1 goal in the first period with 1:14 remaining is a good start for the St. Louis Blues. Very great extent, they've taken the crowd out of the game, and the Hawks have really not had much momentum since the first 10 minutes of this period.
Well, entering this first period, which team do you think had the more pressure?
Oh, for sure, the Blackhawks. I mean, the Blues have gone through all their pressure. They made it into the playoffs the last game of the season. That was a pressure-filled day for them. They're in 4th place. The Hawks are expected to emerge not only out of this division, a lot of people expect them to be in the finals again this year. So all the pressure, I think, is on the Chicago Blackhawks.
Brian Murphy, the linesman, repaired. Chelios the shot. Came right back. Chelios to play it again. Shovels across to Roenick. Late first period, 1-0 Chicago. Plenty of power play time. It'll carry over into the second. Here's Belfour having to go out of his net to play that one along in close quarters to Roenick. Wilson and Miller, the penalty killers. Brown and Butcher in back. Roenick trying to get in. Checked off by Kevin Miller. Chelios able to work it along, and up with it is Murphy. Shovels one, and that one blocked down by Joseph. Larmer spins, hands it back to the point. Chelios across to Smith. Big drive, deflected wide. It's Larmer again, looking inside the box. No one's there. Gives to the back to Chelios. In deep, Brent Sutter. Pass ricocheted behind. Roenick had it chopped away, and it's Larmer again. Back to Smith once more. Shovels over for Larmer. Pass across, and a save made by Joseph. A quick pass to Murphy from Roenick. 10 to go in the period. Larmer hooked across on a pass quickly from Murphy again, and it's Smith with a drive, deflected wide. Murphy Murphy with it, unable to get it to the front. 1 second to go. And the siren goes as Larmer uncorked a bullet. A good period for both teams. We'll return with a Dodge Intermission report after this from our ABC stations.
New York in the Dodge Intermission report. 1-0 the Chicago Blackhawks with the lead over the St. Louis Blues. The second period is straight ahead. One other game underway. That in the Patrick division, where the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins are trying to make it 3 in a row, and they're off to a pretty good start here. Dave Barr, though, helps out the cause for Pittsburgh when he hits Mario Lemieux with a high stick. That's a 2-minute penalty, and they take advantage. Rick Tocchet, watch on the ricochet, just knocks this one home, finding a hole, and that makes it 1-0 on the power play. Lemieux with an assist on that, and of course you should love Mario Lemieux. Watch Yager here with the work, and finds Lemieux, who knocks it into the open net. 2-1. Pittsburgh has the lead over New Jersey after one period. Dave Barr has New Jersey's goal. That one was controversial. Actually went off his skate. They went to the replay, said he didn't intend to kick it in. It was a goal, 2-1. Pittsburgh and New Jersey, second time they've hooked up in the playoffs. Pittsburgh won the 1991 Patrick Division semifinal, 4-3. Pittsburgh leading the season series 6-2-1, and the Penguins can tie a playoff record with a 12th consecutive win dating back to last year if they get the victory today. Edmonton in 1984-85 did that as well. The big news in hockey from yesterday came here in New York, where Mike Keenan was named as the new head coach of the New York Rangers. After his press conference, he talked about enjoying becoming the coach in front of the watchful eyes of the New York Rangers fans.
I identify it as the greatest coaching challenge in hockey, and I think there's the dynamics in New York City that make it special and make it quite different from any other coaching job in the league, particularly with the media attention and all the diversions that may or may not bring to your club.
Later in the day, Mike Keenan had a chance to come here to New York to our ABC studios, and I had a conversation with him. You will see that later on during ABC's coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs. One other game this afternoon, that between Calgary and Los Angeles. We will bring you scores and highlights when that one gets underway. Meanwhile, we'll get back to our next game in just a moment. Here we are between periods of the Chicago Blackhawks with the lead on Steve Larmer's goal against the St. Louis Blues, leading Curtis Joseph. It's 1-0 after one. Welcome back once again to New York in the Dodge Intermission Report. It's been some time since the National Hockey League has received the type of exposure during the playoffs it will receive this year. With that in mind, we thought we'd get you ready with our playoff primer, a look at what is ahead in the NHL playoffs, the ultimate goal to survive and raise the Stanley Cup. Later tonight and tomorrow, 10 more teams begin their quest to wrest the cup away from Mario Lemieux and the Penguins. In the Adams division, the Boston Bruins enter the playoffs, having won 19 of their final 23. They host the Buffalo Sabres, who haven't won a playoff series since 1983, but boast one of hockey's most dynamic tandems in Pat LaFontaine and Alexander Mogilny.
Basically, try and shut them down as best possible by, neutralizing them as soon as they come out of their end. You don't want guys like LaFontaine and Mogilny skating with the puck. They get great speed, they can move the puck really well, and that's where they can hurt you.
In the other Adams semi, the Nordiques and Canadiens will meet in the latest chapter of the Battle of Quebec. The rivalry stirs provincial emotions, and the Canadiens are well aware of the upstart Nordiques.
They're a contender, there's no doubt about that. They had a very good season, and I think the series is going to be very emotional, and a lot of people are waiting anxiously for this series to start, and so are we. I think everybody's excited.
In the Patrick, the New York Islanders won a showdown with New Jersey Friday and avoided the unenviable task of a first-round match with Pittsburgh. The Washington Capitals will be their opposition, another tough draw in a division that prepares teams for the postseason well before April.
I think the last 30 games have been like playoff games for a hockey club and for our young team. I think now the playoff games are not going to be a big difference for them because they've been under playoff situations for 30 games, so they've had their baptism under fire playoff-wise for the last 30 games, so that should help our club in the playoffs.
To the north, where center Doug Gilmour has keyed a revived Toronto team with an MVP-type season. They'll take on the Detroit Red Wings and their brilliant superstar Steve Yzerman tomorrow night. The Wings are riding a 14-3 run heading into the playoffs and may be peaking at just the right time.
I don't think there's any question we're in the best part of our year right now. We've gone 9 of 10. We've had not only good wins, but real positive type play from a lot of important players on our team. I really feel good about the way the team has played. It's probably the best stretch without question over the last 3 years in Detroit.
In the Smythe, the Vancouver Canucks and Pavel Bure repeated their first-place finish of a year ago and open up with Winnipeg Monday. The Jets feature rookie Teemu Selanne, who tied for the league lead in goals but managed only a pair against the Canucks.
Our defensive game, when it's on, is very good, and you know, that's a big factor in beating offensive teams like such as Winnipeg. You know, we've checked Selanne very well, and if we do play physical, you know, maybe that takes him off his game a little bit because he's an exceptional skater and he's got some great puck handling skills, obviously, and he can put the puck in the net.
And we've just begun here on ABC. 5 weeks of the Stanley Cup playoffs every Sunday the next 5 weeks. Back with more of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs in just a moment.
Many banners here at Chicago Stadium. 3 of them are for Stanley Cup championships, the last one in 1961. They'd like one here in 1993. They're ahead 1-0, second period about to start. What did you think the keys to the period were?
Well, I think both teams came out and they wanted to really stress a physical presence. There was a lot of hitting, a lot of clutching, a lot of grabbing, and so there wasn't the flow of the game that the Blues would like to get into. The Hawks missed some great opportunities on their power play. They had guys set up in front of the net, and they were able to deflect the puck, but they deflected it just wide. So strong goaltending, a lot of hitting. I think that as the game wears on, you'll see less hitting and more skating.
Well, the Larmer goal, the only one in the game, was not really a flow type of goal either, was it?
Well, there's a bad giveaway here. Butcher's trying to clear the puck. Brown makes a good play, glove to stick, and he's going to give it to Larmer. Now, he doesn't panic. He sets up. He takes a look at the spot he wants the puck to go, and it's right over the shoulder of Curtis Joseph as he went down just a little bit early. And we talked about hitting. There just isn't much open ice. Roenick's coming with the puck. There's Kevin Miller to meet him. And that's a collision of 2 speed demons. But when you're going that fast, it's a big hit.
Steve Larmer from Keith Brown at 8:17. That's it for the scoring in the first period. Shots on goal, 10 for the Blues, 9 for the Blackhawks. What were the Blackhawks thoughts on this? Let's join Tom Mees and assistant coach Paul Baxter.
Coach of the Hawks, Paul, special teams big in that first period allowed you guys to put pressure on.
Yeah, I thought our penalty killing did a real good job. I thought we did a lot of hard work on the forecheck and didn't give them as much time as they wanted to have, I think, coming up ice. And when they got the puck in our zone, Chelios, Smith, Larmer, Sutter, Dirk Graham, Rutud really did a good job of pressuring them, didn't give them much time.
On the Blackhawk power play, I thought you guys set up well and put a lot of pressure on Curtis Joseph.
Yeah, we had some good chances, Tom. It's just a case of finishing. Certainly we had a lot of chances, and we want to continue to do that at the start of the second when we have the power play.
Well, the Hawks will have the man advantage to start the second period. That's it from here for now. Let's go back to Mike Emmerich.
Okay, Tom, there has been a scoring change. Did you notice when Brian Noonan, number 10, waved at that shot? Well, he actually made contact, and so he gets the goal. Larmer and Brown wind up with the primary and secondary assists. So a scoring change there, and the Blackhawks are hoping another score here early for them in this period. But the Blues had a very solid period. They are shorthanded and will be for another 35 seconds as Smith connects back up to Roenick. Third power play of the game for Chicago. The Blues have had 2, and neither team has connected on a man advantage. Smith just blasted around. Wilson stopped that one, but it came to Roenick. Dips it back to Chelios. Over for Roenick, but off his stick. Jeremy Roenick tested by Jeff Brown, and it swung back down by Miller.
A little play, but a good play for youngsters who want to be good hockey players to see. Chelios, instead of just making that pass, fakes the shot. It freezes the defenders a little bit, and it opens up that passing lane to get the puck through to Roenick, who just missed that pass.
Rich Sutter turned right into the crunch from Dirk Graham. Penalty time is up, and Chelios bumped right off, and here come the Blues. They've got a 2-on-1. Rich Sutter with Lowry. Smith is back. Lowry a drive, and a stick save made by Ed Belfour, as back ahead comes Sutter. Chelios flung it back down. This will be icing. We were interested in getting the thoughts of the St. Louis Blues on that period. Head coach Bob Berry with Tom Mees.
Thanks a lot, Mike. With Bob Berry, head coach of the St. Louis Blues. Bob, the first half of the first period, Chicago did a good job setting up their power play, putting pressure on. They're going to have the extra man in the first 30 seconds this period.
Well, we've worked at our penalty killing. Certainly coming into this building, as you well know, things can be a little bit, they can be very aggressive. But I think we've weathered the storm in the first period here, and we're going to go to work in a second.
Down one isn't all that bad on the road at Chicago Stadium.
No, we've been here before.
All right, Bob Berry, head coach of the St. Louis Blues. Back to you, Mike.
No, the tension greatly relieved from him from when we saw him before. I think it's like players, too. Once you get into the game, all of a sudden that vanishes and you start to really focus and think.
Yeah, it's actually easier for players because they can do something physically out there. They can bump into someone, they can skate hard, they can forecheck, shoot the puck. A coach has to stand behind that bench, wring his hands, and the only thing that's working is his mind, and it's going all the time, 100 miles an hour.
Chelios rattles it back in, slowed by Joseph, dealt along for a tip past McRae, and Chelios just put it right into the big catching glove of Joseph. Down to the ice went Graham. Hustling in is Hall, and Belfour has to come out of his goal to scoop it around with a big goal stick over for Chelios. Got out of the way of the hit from Basil McRae. Graham connects with Rutu, and it's cornered. Hard angle shot from Greg Gilbert went wide. Graham trying to outduel Basil McRae. Still they scrap for it. And around it comes to Murray Barron. Brett Hull. Rutu turned it on back, but it's Kental for St. Louis, advancing it up to Brett Hull, who's got a little room this time. Moves in with Janney, trying to force his way by, taken right out by Chelios. Brian Marchment on the money for Graham. Dirk Graham moves in, drops it over for Jeremy Roenick. Then across for Murphy, but that one chipped away by Zombo. Has his stick held by Murphy. Puck up the boards, and Chelios lifted by Murphy. Zombo with a good close-off on the Blues defense. Kevin Miller trickles one for Rich Sutter, who let it go. Left behind now by Hedican. Blues having a little trouble handling the puck, but we get an offside stoppage of play. Let's return to our studios in New York and John Saunders. John?
Well, the Devils might want to stay out of the penalty box. Here's Stevens with a pretty pass to Mario Lemieux, who rights himself, kicking it off the skate, and then watch the shot just inside the post. 3-1. They're 2 for 3 on the power play. Mike and Jim.
Okay, John, thank you. He's keeping a finger on the pulse of the other games going on in the NHL this afternoon. That is the only one aside from this one that has started. And Mario Lemieux, a comeback story for the ages. Hodgkin's disease and a return from that to average almost 3 points a game in his return, playing his first game back the morning of his final treatment. Cam Russell goes back to take this one. It'll be an icing. Let's check out the Budweiser scoreboard. John mentioned to you that Mario Lemieux has countered, and so Pittsburgh has gotten a 3-1 lead. Los Angeles and Calgary have just gotten underway. And tonight, the Islanders in Washington, Buffalo and Boston, and Montreal and Quebec. Their season series went 4-3 Quebec. 3 Montreal wins were all in Quebec, and 3 of the 4 Quebec wins were in Montreal. And what a goaltender's battle that'll be. Patrick Roy for Montreal and Ron Hextall for Quebec. Hextall has had the better year than Roy. But even a bad year, all of a sudden your goals against average is 0.00 today.
You can throw all the statistics away. Once the playoffs started, it's a brand new season. And if you're lucky, it can be a long one because you're playing well into June if you win the Stanley Cup.
8 weeks long. Every series best of 7. Through Noonan, it goes down to Belfour. 3 minutes into the second period of our game at Chicago Stadium. 1-0 the Blackhawks. Matteau couldn't come up with that one. Nelson Emerson brings it on along with Shanahan. Emerson trying to get by. Closed off by Muni. Poked away by Belfour. Through the front. They score! The Blues have scored to tie the game. Jeff Brown tossed it across. Belfour could not react to stop it.
Nelson Emerson makes a tremendous play, getting good body position. He'll just push the puck to an opening. Shanahan's driving to the net. The Chicago defenders have to turn him. This is a counter. Look at Emerson. He has good speed coming across the blue line. Now right here, he's just going to push the puck, try to get body position. He's pulled down. There's Shanahan and Steve Smith. Everybody's on the ice. Where's the puck? Well, there's the puck in the net. All started by number 7, Nelson Emerson. And there's the shot that results in the goal coming from the point, Jeff Brown. And we've got ourselves a 1-1 hockey game.
Brown from Shanahan and Emerson. At 3:12 elapsed time in the period. Gary Frazier right now explaining why that was not wiped out for a player being in the crease. Emerson was there. But the ruling has to do with whether he was there on his own or whether he had been sent there by the opposition. Basson ahead. Lowry spun it in on Ed Belfour in a 1-1 tie. The Blues held off the Blackhawks in the first, giving up only 1 goal. And they've tied them here in the second. Heddick and a shot, and Rich Sutter not able to deflect as it sailed wide. Along the boards they battle, and you can see that the Blues have really been picked up by this, but here's a possibility of a 2-on-1. Hustling up as Muni as Larmer carries and then fires, and the save made by Joseph. Shots are 13-9 St. Louis. At one point it was 6-2 Chicago. Basson trying to get by. Good hit on him by Muni. Miller comes in for a hit too. Steve Smith circle to circle across for a pass from Stu Grimson that goes down. Play will be stopped on the icing. 15:48 to go. Second period of our contest at Chicago Stadium. It is 1-1. Just back to action. 1-1 the score of our game. Early stages of the second period. Brian Noonan and Jeff Brown are the goal scorers. Slowed by Joseph. Centered, and Troy Murray taken out of the play by Murray Barron. And it is Barron who will get the penalty.
Well, it starts in the neutral zone. Murray's coming up the ice very slowly with the puck. It's a 2-on-2 situation. Murray Barron is there. He can move in and take Murray right in the neutral zone, but he backs up. He allows Murray to dump the puck in, and then as Murray drives, that right there, that's where Barron should just go and take him. It's a 2-on-2 situation. Well, he dumps it in, and from this point, he drives to the net. So important to go to the net. Good things happen offensively. The puck's thrown out, and Barron has to take him down to the ice, and the Hawks go back on the power play. Situation like that, Mike, if your defensive partner can yell to you, it's 2-on-2, I've got this guy, stand up and take him, you eliminate a lot of bad things from happening. In a building as noisy as this, sometimes you don't yell because you feel you won't even be heard, and so the guy's playing it maybe like a 3-on-2 instead of a 2-on-2.
As a defense partner, and you're yelling, do you think the guy selectively can eliminate the crowd as if his ears are tuned toward you?
Yeah, there's better hearing on the ice than you would think. Yeah, with the glass and the closeness, the proximity the players have to each other, you can hear a lot of what goes on down there.
0 for 3 on the power play, Chicago. This is their 4th crack at it. Shot by Noonan went wide, and a wave of the glove from Joseph. Chelios, Larmer, thrown across by Ruutu. Steve Smith, off of Noonan. And Smith again as Jeff Brown went down. Dumped to the front. Larmer and cross, and a backhander knocked down. Ruutu to the back to Smith, across to Chelios again. Larmer, Chelios, and Smith, but back out. So all the Hawks have to get back. Dumped along to Ruutu, drills it back in. Hawks making a shift change now. A flip by Joseph. Smith had trouble. Hustling ahead is Rick Sutter. Moving right in. Save made by Belfour. Here's Roenick headed back the other way. Has a man breaking Ruutu. The pass across. The shot scores!
Transition game for the Hawks goes into effect. It's moved up the ice. And watch this pass coming from Jeremy Roenick to Brian Noonan, and he just snaps it. Short side past Curtis Joseph. short side goal is not a good goal. Joseph gets caught from his motion as Roenick's coming down. He doesn't get from the left post quickly enough to the right post, and Noonan has a little bit of room on that side to get the puck past the St. Louis goaltender.
Roenick and Chelios the assists at 5:40. Noonan with his second goal of these playoffs. Sutter to Muni, flips one, knocked down by Cantal. Brent Sutter, pass in front, blocked away by Curtis Joseph. Boy, Joseph with a very meaningful play with a goal stick there. Denny Felsner ahead. Felsner able to nicely get by Smith. Felsner a pass, Barron is gone, and a save made by Belfour.
Chicago's Steve Smith has had a little bit of difficulty. The puck's been bouncing off his stick as he was on the power play. And right there, Felsner puts a pretty good move on him for a good scoring chance by the Blues. But Belfour comes up. Here's Felsner there, beating Smith at the blue line. Watch the pad stack here. Belfour stays right where there's the shot. Stacks the pads. A great save by Eddie Belfour. Barron coming in. A nice play by young Felsner, who was just called up from Peoria, the farm team of the Blues, making that cross pass to Murray Barron, and Belfour getting over post to post with the big save.
He is 11 for 12. He is perspiring freely. Most goaltenders will tell you they'll drop up to 10 pounds working the course of a game with that 30 pounds of equipment. Roenick dumps it in. Good close off there by Basson. So two players canceled as a result of that defensive play, and now Basson takes it over himself. Bob Basson rolled one that escaped back down. They immediately waved no icing here, so play will continue as Chelios bangs it back around for Roenick. Right through for Larmer. Pass across taken by Brent Sutter, moving in with Cam Russell. Shot went wide. Rich Sutter stepped in too. Keith Brown had to quickly squirrel back to the bench, or the Blackhawks would have had too many men out. It is Chelios. Turns away from Basson. Blues want to try to tie the Blackhawks in their own end of the ice with forechecking, and didn't work that time as they cleared out. Hedican moves back in. Blackhawks trying to punch it out, but Brett Hedican moves in. Turnaround by Hall went wide as he was stymied by Brown. Now Cam Russell flips one that went off a couple of sticks. Boy, the Blues are all in a cluster back in that Hawk zone, and the Hawks have had trouble. Dumped along, but Ruutu will take it. An onside play. Ruutu passed it across the goal mouth. He wanted Greg Gilbert. Graham behind. Gilbert hit by Butcher. Gilbert tried to jam one in, and shutting the door at the side of the net was Joseph. Hedican spins it off. Basil McRae, a good bump with Brown. Hustling ahead is Janney. Wedged off by Brown, but it's dropped to McRae. Flips one that is deflected high away from Brett Hall. End to end, they're starting to go. Dirk Graham peels off. Jeff Brown just shunts it back off the glass. 15 shots for St. Louis. 11 shots for the Hawks. Chicago ahead 2-1. Play stopped on an offside. We'll get back to Chicago Stadium in just a moment.
These fans have been on their feet at the exploits of the Hawk goaltender. Eddie Belfour's hero, of course, was Tony Esposito, the legendary netminder for the Blackhawks for, oh, it seemed like forever, and he's certainly playing like Esposito did in his heyday. Mike?
Tony Esposito, 15 years here, and a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. No one will wear that 35 anymore. Shanahan brings it on in a game that his team trails 2-1. 11.5 to go in the second period. Steve Smith wraps it behind, but the Blues will arrive first. Brendan Shanahan checked by Muni and swung one off Smith. Benny Felsner along the boards, but it's lost up to Brent Sutter. Stefan Matteau wants to get by Barron. Flip one in front, they score! A hat trick!
Once again, driving to the net. You'll see Matteau cross the blue line. A nice pass here Stefan Cattell is with his check, but he does not get Noonan's stick check. And it's the stick that scores goals. Olsen standing beside the guy. And Noonan puts it past Curtis Joseph. And the hats are flying on the ice. A hat trick for Chicago's Brian Noonan.
You would have thought there was a promotional giveaway of hats today, but no, they brought these all themselves.
The Hawks, one of the best teams in the league at driving to the net. When you go to the net, you make a defenseman commit to you. Cattell commits here. Again, we have a 2-on-2 situation, and the Blues give up the blue line. Nice play. Breaks go on by Mateau, and it's just a redirection. Curtis Joseph does not have much chance on that, as he's got to play the man coming down the boards. And Noonan with a nice deflection, long side past Joseph to give the Hawks a 3-1 lead.
It is the first Stanley Cup playoff hat trick by Noonan, and the first by any active Chicago Blackhawk for Chicago. Michel Goulet had a couple with Quebec. Dirk Graham won. That was last year, so I correct myself, against Pittsburgh. And Joe Murphy when he was with Edmonton. Tom Mees is downstairs where the ovation is thundering.
Mike, I could be an entrepreneur. I have enough hats down here to open up a little stand, make a little money. They're hats of all description and sizes, but hey, there must be somebody from Philadelphia in the stands today. Wonder who they're cheering for. Hats for Brian Noonan. Mike?
Well, I think Eric Lindros has already gone to Germany to play for Canada in the World Tournament. Mike Keenan, former coach here, new coach of the New York Rangers, has gone with them. And a number of players from the nations of teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs or are on teams back in their countries already. That competition in Germany. But this one going on in 8 National Hockey League rinks over the next 36 hours. Blackhawks on 3 Noonan goals, leading 3-1, and Larmer peels off. Russell hurried one, but now it's Lowry. Lowry stepped in 2. 10:40 to go in this period. Belfour has to come out of his cage again. Ron Wilson nearby. A penalty coming up. Belfour bumped into a delayed penalty call. Will be against St. Louis. As soon as the Blues touch, it's whistled.
Well, this is not what the Blues wanted. Down 3-1 with Chicago gaining offensive momentum, and another blow in the penalty box. As Wilson is working hard, trying to inspire his team, getting them back into the game, you have to avoid contact with the goaltender. Even though he's out of the crease, he is not fair game. He cannot be hit. Wilson does not avoid contact, and he will sit in the box for 2 minutes unless the Hawks score another goal.
Saturday, ABC Sports rolls in with a crown jewel of the Pro Bowlers Tour. It's the Firestone Tournament of Champions at 3 p.m. Eastern. Then at 4:30, ABC's Wide World of Sports features Shannon Miller's remarkable gold medal winning performance at the World Gymnastics Championships. Plus from Hawaii, go bodyboarding on the Bonsai Pipeline. Well, it's the Noonan Pipeline here this afternoon. 3 goals, not a natural hat trick, as after his first, Jeff Brown had scored for St. Louis. The natural is 3 straight. Smith back over for Chelios. 5th power play of the day for the Blackhawks. Ruutu yanks it in deep. Larmer stood up by Garth Butcher. Now Chelios over for Smith, then back to Chelios again. Chris Chelios blasts one deflected wide by Larmer. He got good position for that shot coming in. Drilled wide by Christian Ruutu. Steve Smith once more moves to the middle. Noonan was faking, going for 4.
Boy, when you're that hot, shoot it. It'll probably go in, Brian.
Ruutu to the back to Smith, but it's broken up and yanked out by Kevin Miller. Halfway through the power play. Chelios remains out there, but the Hawks are making other changes. Chris Chelios fires it around off the goal stick of Joseph, dumped in by Murphy. Controlled by Brent Sutter. Back over for a little tap by Roenick, and the Blues can start out with it. Rick Sutter again. Chelios trying to get back, and Roenick on him. Just enough of a hook to throw him off stride. Rich Sutter with some good back checking, but ahead now comes Roenick. Gets by one, deals it across. Brent Sutter tried to point it, but his brother Rich got in the way and cleared. 20 seconds to go. 8:49 left in the second period. The Blackhawks have the lead 3-1. Kevin Miller flips one, and all the way back down it sails. To the last 5 seconds. Good work by Basson on Brown. So the Hawks don't get much of a blow going here as the penalty to Ron Wilson is over. Good hit by Basson. Puck to the back, thrown right into the catching glove of Ed Belfour by Quintal. Midway in the game, the Blackhawks by 2. For 6 years, Brian Noonan has spent time in Chicago and also with their farm teams. But he's never had a day in the playoffs like this. 3 goals, 1 on a deflection and 2 on strong shots. Dirk Graham brings it back. The Chicago captain bangs it off the boards. Butcher couldn't take it. Troy Murray, but that one popped off his stick and into the seats. Let's return to John Saunders.
Well, the Devils mistake thrown against the Penguins, and Ronnie Francis makes them pay. He shakes free of Claude Lemieux and then finds the opening. 4-1 now. Pittsburgh in charge. Mike and Jim.
Okay, thank you, John. So Pittsburgh well in charge of that game at Civic Arena. This one was up for grabs. Still is, really, because the Blues have continued an attack. But it is a 2-goal lead for Chicago. And as time goes off the clock, the 2-goal lead looks bigger. Jam back in, and Jeff Brown will go to get it. Basil McRae with the close off on Murray, who brushed with goaltender Curtis Joseph. Chopped on by Hull. Janney there, trying to fight his way through. Thrown back out by Marchment. Nice tap by Murray over for Graham. One-on-one with Brown. Graham crossing, and a shot! Just missed the long side. Brett Hull cut off the pass. He has not had much room out there today to get on track. Let's see what he does this time. Little pass over for Janney. Basil McRae trying to get in front. Chelios spun it out, and Matteau could not turn and take. Joseph away from Matteau. Pinching is Sutter. Brought back up by Janney. Greg Janney with 7:15 to go in the second. 3-1, Chicago ahead. McRae with a drive, and it went wide. Rebound, score! Danny Felsner, and the Blues are back to within 1.
Well, a quick point shot, a good bank off the boards, and Felsner finds himself with an empty net, and he puts it right in the heart of it. You'll see the play coming here. You've got 3 Hawks around 2 Blues. That's not good. Now you got to find an open guy. The open guy is Felsner, and Muni is late getting to him, and the puck winds up in the net. Belfour was well out to cut down the angle of the initial shot, and because he's so far out, he cannot get back in time to recover on that rebound off the back boards.
McRae and Janney get the assist on Denny Felsner's first ever NHL goal, and it comes in the opening game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Well, they suspected the same at Ann Arbor. 4 years at the University of Michigan. Icing. 6:57 to go in the second, and the Blues have narrowed it to 1. Catch more playoff action on Tuesday as ESPN presents the New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Next Sunday, ABC Sports continues coverage of hockey's ultimate goal. Live regional action begins at 1 Eastern, noon Central. We hope you're enjoying this one from Chicago Stadium. St. Louis has closed the Chicago lead to half of what it was. It is 3-2 the Blackhawks with 6:45 left in the second period. Along with Jim Schoenfeld and Tom Mees, I'm Mike Emmerich. Roenick took a swat from Kevin Miller. Larmer has to cover there. Steve Larmer just plays it to the corner. Brett Hedican out of St. Cloud State wraps it around the boards, and it's shuffled back out again by Rich Sutter.
This is the matchup that Bob Berry wants. You'll see him changing his line on the fly to get Miller, Basson, and Sutter out against the Roenick line. And the Blues are very disciplined. Once they clear the puck, off they come. And you'll see Chicago now is changing the fly because they don't want their big line playing against the Blues checking line.
Belschner tapped one to the front, and it's thrown back away by Belfour. Pass is knocked loose by Emerson, but dumped back in by Ruutu. Chris Joseph threw it right into Trump. Along the board still, they battle for it to a side. Curtis Joseph thought he had that one pretty well controlled and that he wasn't going to have much trouble sailing it back out, but it didn't work.
Well, the flow has slowed down a little bit as we look at the Blues. Brendan Shanahan, if the Blues are going to win this series, he's going to have himself a great series. Scored 51 goals for the first time in his career, and he leads the Blues with 8 game-winning goals. He can do it a lot of different ways. He has good hands, good patience with the puck, and he goes into high-traffic areas in front of the net, off to the side of the net. He scores a lot of goals on rebounds, tips, and cross passes. So Shanahan is a very complete forward, and he's a pretty tough customer for the St. Louis Blues.
Graham stood up by Cantal. And Jim Schoenfeld has told me privately one of the favorite players that he's ever coached when he coached him in New Jersey. Colorful guy, too, Brendan Shanahan. Meanwhile, it's Ruutu. Spinning one in front, and it was away from Graham. Shanahan rolls it back down, and Belfour out of each cage to get it. Marchment with 5.5 to go in the second. Shot by Cantal, knocked down. Ryan Marchment banked one right out in front. Cantal tried to keep it. Ruutu got only as far as Belschner. Now Ruutu again. Graham wants to get by Murray Barron. Graham spun. Then along for Roenick. Belschner on him. Hustling ahead is Emerson. Good head man pass to Shanahan, but they ruled it was offside.
The Blackhawks came out very strong this period. They had good ice to work with. They had a good offensive flow, and the game opened up a little bit. 3-1 lead. They're going pretty good. Then all of a sudden, the Blues get a bit of a break on a bank off the boards, and now it's back to a 1-goal game, and you'll see the tempo of the game slow down. There are no players on the ice from either team who want to be the guy to make the mistake if you're a Blackhawk to make it a 3-3 game, or if you're a Blue to give the Blackhawks another 2-goal lead. So the checking has tightened up again, and as the ice gets a little snowy, the passes aren't as crisp, and you'll see the tempo of the play slow down with 5 minutes to go in the second period.
Well, in terms of who wants to accomplish what, even though the Blues are behind on the scoreboard, they've really got an edge in getting what they want out of this game so far.
Well, they want to keep it close going into the third period, last 10 minutes. They certainly don't want to get the Hawks in a situation where they have a 2- or 3-goal lead. The Hawks have the best defensive record in the National Hockey League, so they're very good at protecting a lead. The Blues don't want it to get to any more than 1-goal deficit. They'd love it to be even going into the third.
Chelios, Larmer, and back in. Curtis Joseph just taps it along for Zombo. Shots are 17-13 St. Louis. Kevin Miller moves on. Brushed away from him by Marchment. Marchment in close quarters to Muni. Back around now for Basson, though. Basson tripped one behind off the back of the net, but it is Lemieux to take over. Jocelyn Lemieux, brother of Claude, who's playing for New Jersey this afternoon at Pittsburgh. Hedican cranks one back around. Belfour couldn't get this one. Neither could Basson, though. And it's worked back on for the pivoting Larmer. Marchment brings it ahead. Off of Roenick. Right in on Joseph. Sets it up for Hedican. St. Paul, Minnesota native Brett Hedican with a pass on to Basson. Basson watched by Muni. Has an opening. Basson a shot right into the chest of Belfour. And then he's punished by Muni to the boards. Play will resume from Chicago Stadium in just a moment. Noonan with a hat trick for Chicago. Jeff Brown, his first playoff goal. Ed Belfour, 16 saves out of 18 shots on him. But importantly, Brett Hull has been permitted only one scoring chance in this game. And 2 periods have nearly been completed. Basil McRae. Good hit on him by Steve Smith. McRae able to peel off. Basil McRae again locked up by Smith and down. Smith concerns himself with McRae. Noonan with the puck. Sutter couldn't chip it by Butcher. Now they started out, and a pass over 2 lines went to Matteau. Pittsburgh off and rolling. 2:47 left in the second there, and they have a 5-1 lead.
Well, the Hawks are a much better team at applying offensive zone pressure than the Blues. You saw an instance there, Steve Smith working with Basil McRae. The Hawk defenders are so big and strong. They'll knock you off the puck, they'll knock you down, they'll get possession and get their forwards underway. The Blues want to get more of a flow game. They create chances better on the rush than they do by grinding along the boards and in the corners, and that's a great example of it there. The other end of the rink, when the Hawks get in there, they're buzzing all over the place, and they're a real handful for the St. Louis defenders.
Do you think that Chicago will have to change its style when it moves across the street in 2 seasons to play in the new arena?
You might think that, and yet they have the best road record in the league, and there are a lot of big ice surfaces throughout the National Hockey League, and it hasn't affected them there. So I don't think they'll have to change their style that much, no.
This is a 185-foot ice surface here. The normal is 200, and the 15 feet taken out of center ice. So that's the reason you've seen some 2-line passes. This wonderful facility was built in 1929, was opened in March of 1929. The Chicago Blackhawks have won 3 championships here, but here you see the construction. This would have been prior to the winter of 1928. It has seen not only 3 championships and many thrilling games by the Chicago Bulls and by the Blackhawks. It saw the championship game of the National Football League in 1932. People in these seats looked down on an 80-yard field. It was so snowy and icy, George Halas moved the championship game inside, and the Chicago Bears beat Portsmouth, Ohio 9-0. The key play, a soft pass from Bronco Nagurski to Red Grange in the end zone. A lot has happened here, and the Hawks fans are happy with this, but not undoubtedly a little bit concerned because their lead is not 7, it's 1. They relax a little more when it gets to be huge because they know how well the Blackhawks protect. But it is the narrowest at 3-2 with 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go in period 2. Blues have outshot the Hawks 19-13.
Blues doing a real good job. They're attacking with angles in the neutral zone now. They're giving the Hawks 1 outlet pass, then attacking as Ruutu comes over center ice.
Ruutu dumps in. King Tall takes over for the Blues in the final 2.5 of the period. Brendan Shanahan walking it on. Shanahan able to step by and just closed off at the last by Chelios. Nice move and good conception there by Shanahan. Noonan in over to Sutter. Sutter a drive and it went wide. Rebound out front on and sent across the goal mouth wide by Jocelyn Lemieux. Thrown ahead for Felsner. Down he goes with Marchment. They cancel, and Felsner was able to cut off the icing, but Belfour is able to hang on, and a discussion here.
Chelios did a good job coming back. Marchment had Shanahan tied up, but his stick was still loose, and Chelios came back, made the clearing, and again counterattack. And you'll see here, once again, the Blackhawks drive to the net. They eliminate a St. Louis defender, and Lemieux gets the shot on the angle. Joseph having to be alert to get over to make that save. That's the second good save he's made on Jocelyn Lemieux. Actually, the third. There were 2 in the 1. He had the tip early in the game, and then he took the puck to the backhand on the rebound, and that was a pretty good scoring chance there. So Lemieux not happy with the goaltending of Curtis Joseph.
Brendan Shanahan just got in an extra lick on Chris Chelios. No penalty will come here.
There are a lot of players in the league that would like to get an extra lick in on Chris Chelios. He's not a well-liked player throughout the National Hockey League, but he is revered by his teammates and the Chicago fans. Type of guy you hate to play against, but you would love to have in your team at any time.
Off the face-off taken by Russell. 3-2 the score. Chicago ahead in the game. Kevin Miller put it in front. Belfour laid it off for Brown. Oh, was he ever hit by Rich Sutter? And Keith Brown is not getting up from that hit. Murray flips one ahead. Kerry Fraser noting the injury and also that St. Louis was not on the attack, blew the whistle.
Well, Brown went down hard. Looks like he's trying to get his breath right there. You'll see Sutter come in. There's a collision. You see the skates, the right skates just clicked. Brown's toe got caught in the heel of Sutter's, and that took him off balance. And of course, Sutter finished the check, and Brown went heavily into the boards. He's over at the Chicago bench now being attended to. He seems to be all right. And we can get a look. We'll see what they're looking at there. He's bent over, but I don't know what they're doing with him or what the injury problem is.
Well, it might be the shoulder. He has a history of shoulder difficulties. I thought at first that it might be his hand or wrist. He might have braced himself or gotten it in the way when he was taken into the board. Sometimes your hand will get right on that railing, and when the force is applied, it can cause a problem. But I think it might have been just the way he was holding the hand from the shoulder hurt.
Well, you see as Sutter comes in, there the skates are going to click right there, and he goes in with a hard shot, left shoulder banging into the boards, and that's what the trainer is rubbing right now.
Century mark in playoff games in the career of Keith Brown. Brown a part of this team for 14 years.
And once again, the Blues change all 5 players on the fly to get the 5 defenders out against the Roenick line that they want.
It is Roenick, but 3 Blues were there, and he couldn't beat 3. Rich Sutter pops it into the seats with 1:21 to go in the second period, and the Hawks ahead 3-2.
Daryl Sutter right away takes the big scoring line off the ice and sends out his checking line. And so the Blues want to make the change. I don't know if Fraser's going to let them. Yes, he let them make the change. That's the advantage of being at home. You get last change. Now if Sutter wants, he can put his scoring line back on, but he elects to keep the lineup on the ice that he just sent over the boards. And there's Rich Sutter, who threw that big hit on Keith Brown. And that's not the first big hit he's thrown. And weren't they adorable when they were little, Mike? Can you believe those 2 cute little guys wreak as much havoc around the National Hockey League as they do? The twins, Rich and Ron Sutter. I don't know, do they look better then, or do they look a little better now? What do you think, partner?
Well, that picture is 28 years old because they're now 29.
Careful now, Mrs. Sutter is listening.
That's right, it is Sunday, so she doesn't have to work at the Viking Alberta IGA store, but she was working yesterday. What a family. 6 guys who have played in the NHL, and they were all playing at one time. Here's Chelios moving back in. Chelios threw one to the front, but it was quickly blocked down. Janney steps to that, but it is wedged right off for Ruutu behind. Ruutu couldn't get it to the front as Brown was there. Brendan Shanahan in the final 40. Shanahan trying to work it back in, put it into the glove of Belfour. Marchment bangs it around for Dirk Graham. Graham with 2 100-point years over a decade ago in the International League with a team called the Toledo Gold Diggers. Ruutu with a good strong shot, but Joseph could see it all the way.
And Matteau right at the crease. So one thing the Blackhawks do extremely well, and it cannot be overstressed. It's very important if you're going to have a hockey team that scores a lot of goals or a team that makes it difficult on defenders. Once you get over the blue line, one player has to drive to the net. The Hawks do that as well as any team in the league. You look at Matteau's numbers, big strong guy. He's going to get better and better as his career goes along, I would think, Mike.
6'3", 195. He's been with the Blackhawks for a year and a half, and he has the primary assist on Noonan's 3rd goal, the hat-trick goal. Noonan with 3, Brown and Felstner with the 2 for the St. Louis Blues. Sutter unable to get it by, flipped back out again by Ron Wilson. Belfour doing a little traffic direction to the final dozen of the second period. We go, and a giveaway. A shot by Wilson went wide. Larmer again. Behind for Smith, but it's Muni. Matteau run into, but that'll take care of it. One last shot by Sutter. But the siren goes, and the second period has ended. And the Blackhawks, as at the end of the first, have a 1-goal lead. We'll return with our intermission report after this from our ABC stations.
Welcome back once again to our ABC studios here in New York and the coverage of the National Hockey League playoffs. As promised, joining me now is the brand new coach of the New York Rangers, Mike Keenan. Congratulations. Let's get right to the issues of why you were brought here. Here is a team that on paper looks very good but underachieved. What can Mike Keenan do to get them to the next level?
Well, the first thing we have to do, obviously, evaluate the talent level from an on-ice perspective and then make believers and restore the confidence. I think the players have lost to a certain extent, having end up in first place a year ago and then dropping out of the playoffs this year. I'm sure their confidence levels aren't as rich as they should be and deserve to be, and hopefully that's one of the things we can restore.
How much does your reputation as a hard-nosed guy, the reputation not going to take anything from these guys, how much does that come into effect?
Well, I think that's just part and parcel, but a small part of the package they're getting. I think coaching involves more than that. I think a program can be developed that will integrate the winning aspects for the players in particular without all this browbeating, overstated part of Mike Keenan's personality. I think it's an all-encompassing thing that has to be developed amongst the players and the coaching staff.
It helps to have a good reputation with your star players, and Mark Messier is a guy you've been fortunate enough to coach in the past.
I have indeed, and we've had some real positive experiences in 2 Canada Cups in 1987 and 1991. And both experiences, we shared some highlights of our career with some great players like Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, successfully completing those tournaments. And hopefully we can do the same thing in New York.
There's been some talk to the contrary, but you and I know as a fact that Neil Smith wanted you very badly for this position. What's your relationship with Neil, and how do you see that working in the future?
Well, it's a very respectful relationship. We've had the possibility to work with each other for the last 2 years as general managers, and we've conversed quite a bit from our experiences at that level, and now he's given me an opportunity to coach, and that's something I missed once I'd stepped away from the bench, and an opportunity to coach probably in the most challenging coaching job in the National Hockey League here in New York.
All right, you've got another challenge up. That's to go win the World Gold Medal at the World Championship for Canada. Good luck. Congratulations on the job here in New York. We'll have more in the coverage of the National Hockey League on ABC after these messages. Welcome back once again to New York and coverage of the National Hockey League playoffs here on ABC. Joining me now from Calgary is Los Angeles Kings center Wayne Gretzky, the great one. He has been called throughout his career. And Wayne, what's the condition of the back? It did seem to improve as the year went along. What's the condition right now?
Well, right now I feel very good and I feel very comfortable. And I had an opportunity to get a lot of hockey games in. I came back in January, and over the last 20 games, I felt that my conditioning is very strong, and I feel that I'm playing as good as hockey as I can play at this point in time.
You have, in the past and presently this year as well, put some pressure on yourself to deliver in Los Angeles. Without question, that's the reason they got you down there from Edmonton. How much pressure do you put on yourself now to win the Stanley Cup in the immediate future?
Well, I'm honest with myself. When I play well, I admit to playing well. When I don't play well, I admit to playing poorly. But right now, we'd like to win a championship. I think that the fans of Los Angeles have been tremendous. We've over the last 4 or 5 years, averaged almost 16,000 people game in and game out. Hockey's really picked up tremendously in that area. San Jose is doing very well, and now Anaheim is now in the National Hockey League. So we've come a long way off the ice. Now what we'd like to do is deliver something on the ice, and that would be a great thrill for everyone if we could bring a championship to L.A.
With the number of Stanley Cup rings that you have, you obviously know what it takes to get to the championship level. Do the Kings have what it takes, and what will it take extra to get them there?
Well, we have what it takes. There's no question about that. And I think that any team in our conference and any team in our division has an opportunity to come out of here. I think the good news is we're a very good hockey club. The bad news is that there's some good teams in our way, and it's going to be very difficult, but we're committed to winning. We really believe in Barry Melrose's system. We're excited about being here. It's a challenge for us, and there's no question we have the talent, we have the experience. Now all we have to do is go on the ice and produce. So we're very confident, but we also know there's very good teams ahead of us.
All right, Wayne, thanks a lot for joining us, and good luck later this afternoon against the Calgary Flames. We'll see you throughout the rest of the playoffs.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, we'll continue with more coverage of the National Hockey League playoffs here on ABC in just a moment.
3-2, the Blackhawks leading. You see the first and second balconies here at Chicago Stadium. The price range for today, $22.50 all the way up top to sit or stand, and down at the bottom in the box is $90. Everybody getting their money's worth so far. And the Blackhawks have done a wonderful job on Brett Hull. They've limited him to 2 scoring chances, no points so far.
Well, they haven't really assigned one man to him. What they're doing, once Hull crosses the Chicago blue line, whoever is with him at that point in time marks him until the Blackhawks gain possession of the puck. On the transition, then they'll go to their position. But they're going to Hull, they're taking him out hard, and they're staying with him until the Blues lose possession of the puck.
Well, Brian Noonan had a goal in the first period, another in the second, and then he got his hat-trick goal here in the second period as well.
Well, Stefan Matteau's going to put the brakes on here. That'll give him time to make a good cross-ice pass. Noonan driving to the net. The Hawks have been doing that all day, and he redirects the puck, as Stefan can tell is just a little late getting to him. And he's a happy Chicago Blackhawk, scoring his first National League hat-trick. That made it 3-1 for the Hawks. A lot of people thought the Blues were done, but they keep coming back. And you'll see here a bit of a break. One of the few times the Hawks missed their defensive zone assignments. You get 3 Hawks there. The shot's going to come off the boards. McRae's going to miss the net. Melfor's well out of the net challenging McRae. He can't get back in time. And Felsner has an open net, and he puts it in for his first National League playoff goal.
Now let's take a look at our Miller Genuine Draft scoring summary for the game. Noonan, 8-17 of the first from Larmer and Keith Brown. 1-0 at the end of one. Jeff Brown from Shanahan and Emerson at 3:12. Noonan from Roenick and Chelios at 5:40. Noonan the hat-trick goal from Matteau and Brent Sutter at 8:51, and then Felsner from McRae and Janney at 12:49. Shots in the second, 10-5 St. Louis in the game, 20-14. Teams are back out on the ice, ready to start this third period. Talked to a couple of Blackhawk fans up at the top of the steps between periods. They're a little concerned about this. This is not exactly the type of lead they wanted. It is just one. But of course they said Hawks are awesome.
Well, the Hawks have been awesome for a great part of the season. The building is hot in here today. You see the ice still has water on it. It's been a grueling contest. You've had to work for every inch of the ice, whether you're wearing a white sweater or a blue sweater. That takes its toll. It'll be interesting to see how the pace is in this third period.
Let's go back to New York now for John Saunders.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. Let's update the Patrick division, where the Pittsburgh Penguins are off and running. Take a look at Mario Lemieux. Takes the feed from Stevens. Nice job to kick it to his stick, and then just inside the post, his second of the game. Then Ronnie Francis does a terrific job shaking free of Claude Lemieux off the faceoff, and when he does, he fires this one home, and the Penguins are just running away. Dave Tippett as well. Again, bad clearing play there by Terreri, and Tippett converts in front. Yager with the pass, and right now the Pittsburgh Penguins are rolling 5-1 as they head towards the third period in this one. Lemieux with 2 goals and 1 assist. Right now, let's take it back to Mike and Jim in Chicago. Gentlemen.
Okay, John. I want to check in to get the St. Louis perspective on this game. Tom Mees conducted an interview with Bob Barry.
You're still only 1 goal down going into the third period against a tough Chicago team.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, we've been there, and in Chicago Stadium being down a goal in the third period is not that bad.
Now, Brett Hull has only 2 scoring chances on the day. Chicago doing anything special to mark him?
Well, I think they play a pretty good team defense against him. We haven't been able to get him to the puck. Our power play has basically been ineffective, but look for him to get the puck a little bit more in the third period.
You're going to try to feed him and going to try to feed your other big scorers here in this third period?
Well, we're not really too particular who gets it, but we're going to go after them in the third period.
All right, Bob, thanks a lot. 3-2 going to the third period. Let's go back upstairs to Mike Emmerich.
Okay, Tom. There are no carryover penalties or power plays as we get going in the third. A pass from Graham was slowed down, and then it popped past Curtis Joseph to the glass. Marchment battling. Went by Sutter. Chelios tried to close it off. Hull on him, and then it's thrown back out for Janney and right back in. Played back across. Brett Hull is there. And dumped back in, wide of Smith, and back to get it is Chelios. And Steve Smith. Lost and Rich Sutter. Basson trying to trickle one through, and Smith on him. Peeling off is Kevin Miller. Rich Sutter after it, and it's knifed away by Larmer. Zombo there. Very carefully played game here at the start, and you'd expect that as we get into the third period with Chicago having a 1-goal lead, and Roenick moving in. Backhander went wide. Putting the wedge into him was Hedican. Big hit on Muni by Kevin Miller, and they come back at each other. Glove down by Larmer. And again, back in off a glass support. Basson shoveling it across to Rich Sutter. Hedican closed off by Murray. Matteau stepped into, and Rich Sutter ahead. Good hit on him by Muni. Steve Smith bringing it on. Big shot and a pad save, Joseph. The H in hockey stands for hitting. You knew you'd get it at Chicago Stadium, but a little extra in that one that was illegal. And the Blackhawks will get a power play.
Well, Kevin Miller is not a big guy, but he's been throwing his weight around a lot today. And if you're at home, listen to this hit right here.
Putting the wedge into him with
Muni and Miller collide, and that's a pretty good tempo, and that shakes the fillings loose a little bit. Mike, contact like that.
Well, not in every arena is there give to the boards and glass. How does this one stack up against other arenas? Is it a pretty good cushion here when you go in?
Whether there's give or not, it's not only the boards and glass you're getting hit into, it's the guy that's hitting you, and it's more the whiplash effect. Any hit, any contact from the first day of camp to the end of the season, you're sore somewhere, and Brendan Shanahan sitting in the penalty box is mentally sore. He did not want to put his team in a position starting this period where they wanted to come out with fire and offensive momentum after 2 minutes to have to kill another Chicago power play.
The game could hinge on this. Power play 6 for Chicago. The lead in the game by 1. 1:54 gone in the third period. And Chris Chelios has it. Joseph got a piece of that, but not much. Roenick around for Brent Sutter. It pinballs back to Chris Chelios again. Over for Smith. Drive, and it went wide. Joe Murphy has it. Murphy along now for Sutter. Roenick moves inside the box and then dances out again as the play is worked from Chelios, and the pass out in front from Murphy was sent back out by the Blues. Chelios once more. It is Smith again. Steve Smith had that one blocked off by Rich Sutter, able to work it back in deeper, and Belfour has to come out. Belfour had some help as Rich Sutter was right on him from Chelios, but Rich Sutter, a real force out here for the shorthanded Blues. Now he comes to the bench for a shift change. Butcher with a shot, and an easy grab of that by Belfour, and he'll just wait.
That's a smart play by Eddie Belfour. He sees that his power play unit is scrambling around a little bit in his own zone. He's just going to catch that puck, get the whistle, let everybody settle down, give Daryl Sutter a chance to make a line change, and get things started on the right track with 1:06 left in the Hawk power play.
You've been hearing all afternoon the Barton organ, the world's largest unified organ. The pipes here are built into the rafters, and when they move across to the new arena in 2 years, the organ will stay here. And that's a shame because it's so much a part of the character. Frank Pellico is the man who's in charge of the keyboard. Wayne Messmer, former music major out of Illinois Wesleyan, is the man who sets the crowd aflame with his rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Rutu in deep. Zombo driving it back off, and the Blues have done a good job so far. Rich Sutter gets a lot of credit for getting the clock down this far, but he's resting now. Wilson and Kevin Miller are up front. Hedican and Zombo in back. The hard around is played by Marchment, but it's slowed by Curtis Joseph. And just a kick shot by Joseph back down.
Boy, what another big hit. Kevin Miller has had himself a whale of a game for the Blues. He's just throwing his weight around at every opportunity. He's killing penalties. He's had some good scoring opportunities. He's played a great all-round game for Bob Berry's St. Louis Blues.
Belfour passes over to Smith. Down to the last dozen seconds of this power play. Roenick hustles ahead. Jeremy Roenick peeling off. Watched by Jeff Brown. Scoots around behind and centered, and a kneeling block by Butcher in the clear by Brown. The Blues have killed off another one. They are 6 for 6 on penalty kills. Smith, and then a pass from Roenick. Right back in it comes. Correct myself. They are 5 for 6 on penalty kills. The second goal by Noonan was a power play. Wrap back off now for Matteau. Jams it behind. Craig Muni there. Up the boards for Murphy. Bumped into by Shanahan, and ahead comes Roenick. Jeremy Roenick controlling up to Matto in front. Oh, and a save made by Joseph. It is Roenick again, trying to turn away from Janney, and he went down. Along the boards, he trips up Butcher. Matto with a pass that is kicked away. Brett Hull lays it ahead for Janney. Smith getting back on defense. Craig Janney right now with no one to pass to, picks up two. It's Shanahan moving right in. Wide with a shot. Great opportunity for the Blues on that one. Steve Smith turns it around, then takes the hit from Shanahan. Puck pops back for Muni. Greg Muni with 5 minutes gone in the third period. 3-2, Chicago ahead. Troy Murray just shanked one off the stick of Zombo. Bumps to the boards, and Hennigan comes by to help out. It is Zombo once again. Pass is clicked off of Wilson. Shoveled ahead for Bozon, but tipped into the seats. Play is stopped here at Chicago Stadium, and it's still a one-goal lead for the home squad.
Craig Janney doing what he does so very well, gaining the blue line, making the little turn, and hitting a forward coming late. This time it's Brendan Shanahan one-on-one against Belfour, and Belfour wins the battle to keep the Hawks ahead by 1 goal.
A time when you look to your leaders. We asked Daryl Sutter who they were on his team, and one of the guys just released the puck back in, Chris Chelios. Brent Sutter and Steve Smith and Dirk Graham, the captain, were the others he mentioned. And Graham is out in front for a pass that went off his skate. Marchman a drive, and getting a piece of that was Joseph. Thrown around behind. Troy Murray looks for Gilbert. Pass in front. Off the stick of Murray Barron. Rolled back out again by Wilson. Chelios flips it back in. The Hawks are starting to move it on now in that St. Louis zone. The dump and chase starting to work. They're getting chances. Bozon ahead. Bozon across. Shanahan a drive and a save. Rebound, and that went off Belfour too. King Tall to the boards behind, but Marchman taps it along. Chris Chelios after it. Up now for Graham. A pass too far for Gosselin Lemieux, and so Denny Belfner able to turn away with it. Nelson Emerson playing it there, able to stagger away and get a pass to Jeff Brown. Felstner moving in, Smith meeting him there. Felstner tried to one-hand it. Smith had him wrapped up. Pass too far for Noonan. Butcher keeps it alive to the corner. Shanahan had trouble as Muni took him down, and Steve Smith up with the puck. Now it's the forechecking of the Blues that's paying off. Felstner turned one off of Shanahan. Nelson Emerson with it. Floats it around behind. Noonan steps to this one, and he just clears it back down. It'll be an icing call. Shanahan to do the honors, and the big scoreboard clock stops with 13:12 to go in the third period. The Hawks ahead in the game by a count of 3-2.
Well, you can expect Bob Berry to start double shifting players like Brett Hull, Craig Janney, Brendan Shanahan. When you're down a goal and you're coming to the halfway point of the third period, you've got to get your guns on the ice. So I would expect to see these three players an awful lot. Shanahan has already been double shifted. Janney's out again, and now he's out with Hull. A lot of different combinations being tried by Bob Berry to get something going offensively for his St. Louis Blues.
Well, a lot of other action going on today in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But we want to deal with the matinees. Pittsburgh 5-1. They are in the third period at Civic Arena. Los Angeles the lead on Calgary at the Saddle Dome. Save made by Belfour. We call in John Saunders.
L.A. and Calgary. Wayne Gretzky sets up in his favorite spot behind the net. Daryl Sador streaking in. He scores, and 1-0. L.A. has the lead over 14 left in the first. Mike and Jim.
Thank you, John. You know, we've been hearing the organ a lot this afternoon, and we heard the thundering crowd at the start and on the Noonan goal. But you're right, Jim. This responsive crowd has been taken out of it somewhat by the way the Blues have played Chicago today.
Yeah, the Blues have played a very good road game. They just have to get a little more offensive production, but they want to just keep it close. They're doing a smart thing here. They're not throwing caution to the wind. They're not opening things up. They only have to score 1 goal to tie and 2 to win. So if they can take it into overtime, they'd be a happy group of hockey players.
12:50 left. Blackhawks 3, Blues 2. A steal by Hull, but quickly Russell was on him. Greg Gilbert back, tried to turn it in twice, but both times it was to Ruutu, and this time he threw one wide. Dirk Graham plays it for Gilbert. Russell in, but it's dumped off by Jeff Brown. Ruutu once more. Butcher lets it go. Brown will try the other way this time and gets it up to Basil McRae. Russell corralling this one. The Blues making a change of lines. Hall stays out, though. Pass on for Jeremy Roenick. Roenick hooked that, but is able to nudge it back in. Now Hall coming to the bench. Roenick with a big hit on Zombo. Larmer able to dig it free. Pass out for, that time it is Murphy. Joe Murphy to the corner. But it is cut by Hedican, and he starts ahead. Brett Hedican corners. Belfour flicked it right back to the corner. Rich Sutter taken out by Smith. And Roenick just lobs it back out. Swept back out by Zombo. For a while, we weren't seeing Joe Murphy, and a moment ago, I kind of did a double take to see him out there at the time. This is a group that he's been playing with on a regular basis, but they've been odd shifting him. 11:40 to go in the third period. Blackhawks still with that one-goal lead here at the stadium. Now, see, that's what you want them to do. You want them very idle, sort of sitting on their hands. That's very hard to do in Chicago, to keep this crowd down. But that's what the Blues have accomplished. But they haven't gotten into a tie. They still trail by one. The tom-tom rattling and moving away with it is Ron Wilson. Roenick knocked that down, fed over for Murphy, and a rising shot, and getting a shrunk shoulder on that was Curtis Joseph. Oh, a high hit by Smith. Turnaround shot by Larmer well wide, and it's Shanahan laying one off of Felsner. Felsner tried to control it, but a tough one to play. Larmer trying to turn back. Jeff Brown pivots. The lone forechecker is Joe Murphy. Back up for Steve Smith again. Took the hit from Felsner. Hawks in the midst of a shift change. Again, Muni, and back in, and so Brown will go to play once more. Under 11. The shots are 23-17. St. Louis in the lead there, but not on the big board. Puck played by a high stick, and so again a stoppage of play. Coming up next on ABC Sports, it's live coverage of the Toyota Grand Prix through the streets of Long Beach. World driving champion Nigel Mansell is back and has won the pole position for today's race as the fastest qualifier. That's next on ABC Sports.
Well, the Blues coming back with yet another combination. Brett Hull on the right side. Now he's got Dave Lowry on the left side. Wilson at center. Wilson was on with Shanahan the last shift. Took the face-off.
I'm sorry, I was watching those guys. I'm sure you were making a very prolific comment.
No.
Boy, do you ever have to watch these people in the seats here.
That was much more important than anything I had to say.
Why would you wear a helmet? Well, maybe they're in an alley where there's some pennies that fly now and then. Who knows?
Hey, it's that true hockey look. You can't go halfway. If you're going to go the whole way. They probably have skates on. We just couldn't see their feet.
Well, here is Hull. One-on-one with Marchment. Hull crosses. A rising shot into the seats.
Marchment does a good job on Hull. He doesn't commit. He's playing more of a containment on this one-on-one, and he forces Hull to shoot the puck. And Hull really doesn't get good wood on it. The puck's bouncing a little bit. It rolls. You'll see here now as he goes to shoot, Marchment's stick comes down and deflects it over the goaltender, over the glass, and out of harm's way. And Belfour's saying, somebody block this shot, block this shot. Yes, his defenseman comes up big for him, and he does not have to make the save. That will probably not be the last scoring chance that number 16 has today. As the game's wearing on, he seems more and more intent on getting a goal for his Blues.
There isn't a Blue in the lineup that either as a St. Louis Blue or a member of a prior club has gotten a Stanley Cup playoff hat trick. But Hull is the most likely. A rare empty season for him in getting a hat trick this year. Garth Butcher and Hull nearby, but Butcher preoccupied with Matteau, so Hull turns it around now for Bozon, and a shot, and Hull tried to tap for Janney. Stefan Matteau must go back deeper. Hawk knocked down, and Janney tried to center, got the back of the net, and we get a stoppage of play and a penalty coming up. So again, a power play will result from this penalty call, and a very crucial time of the game beckons. Chris Chelios looks like the guilty party.
The Blues set up that face-off. They moved Garth Butcher, the right defenseman, up along the boards, and they moved Brett Hull back to the point. Butcher's job is to prevent the Blackhawk forward from getting out to Hull, and of course the centerman's trying to draw the puck back to Brett for the big shot. A good setup by the Blues, but the Hawks were able to thwart it.
Well, it was Matteau. A high sticking call, and so the Blues are presented with a great chance to tie things up.
Brett Hull is over at the bench getting another stick. Actually, he's just giving himself a little bit of a rest. It's a ploy players use. They go and they give the trainer a stick and say, take this, put it in on the line of with the other sticks, and then give it right back to me because it's the one I want, but I need about a 15-20 second breather. Hull's ready, and these are the three guns: Shanahan, Janney, and Hull, with Emerson and Brown on the point. We'll see what the St. Louis power play can do.
It's done nothing in its two chances today. But what a time to get it going.
And again, we should remind you, Steve Larmer leads the Blackhawks in shorthanded goals. And the Blackhawks scored 14 this year, so they are a threat when they're shorthanded. And that would just not be the thing that Bob Berry would want to happen. And Larmer has had himself yet another great game as a Chicago Blackhawk. He is one of the more consistent performers over the years. As a coach, you love a guy like that. You know every day that you're going to get 100% effort, and you know what kind of game to expect from a player like Steve Larmer.
In terms of the score sheet today, he has an assist. Nelson Emerson leaves it for the carry back up ice by Jeff Brown. Then on for Emerson once more. Emerson feeds one tip by Janney across to Hull. Looks to Brown and then gives it to him. Brown with a shot, kicked right back by Steve Smith, but kept by Hull. Emerson, but that one ricocheted right to Chris Chelios, and Chelios fires it back down. 1:15 left on the minor to Stefan Matteau. Puck trickled back in by Janney. Shanahan took a stick up high, and the Blues are going to get a 5-on-3 power play out of this.
Well, referee Kerry Frazier is over checking Brendan Shanahan. We don't know if this will be a 2-minute penalty or a 5-minute penalty. He's assessing the damage, and he's going to the penalty timekeeper, and Steve Smith is following him, so we can assume that it's a 2-minute slashing penalty. And you'll see it right here. As Shanahan starts to bust in, the stick rides up off of Shanahan's stick and catches him in the side of the face. It was unintentional, but in the National Hockey League, you must be in control of your stick at all times. And at that point in time, Steve Smith was not. It resulted in an injury to Brendan Shanahan, and he'll sit out. A 2-minute penalty. Boy, what a break for the Blues this is. Could they have scripted this any better? They're down 1 goal, 9:11 left, and now they've got a 5-on-3, the third best power play unit in the National Hockey League. Now you got Chris Chelios, Larmer, and Sutter, 2 forwards and 1 defenseman, and you'll see the forwards working back and forth, up and down, and Chelios biding his time in front of the net. He will try not to get tied up with a St. Louis player. The Blues are going to try to go from Hull down to Janney. Janney from the corner in the side of the net out to the slot to either Miller or Shanahan.
All right, we'll watch to see if that's how it unfolds. Hull steams it across, but they've got to play a neutral ice. The Iron Three are Brent Sutter, Chelios, and also Larmer. In front of Ed Belfour, Brendan Shanahan. All the gunners out for St. Louis. Brown across to Hull. Then in for Janney, just like you said. Hull a drive and getting a piece of it, Belfour. In deep, they score! Brendan Shanahan, and the game is tied at 3, and now it becomes a 5-on-4 power play for St. Louis.
Well, Chicago's Brent Sutter read the play, so he caved in a little bit. He took the pass away from Shanahan, and that left Hull open. Hull rifled it. Belfour made the save, but the rebound went to a Blue, and we've got ourselves a 3-3 hockey game as Shanahan and Chelios exchange niceties. You'll see it here. You'll see Sutter read the play to Miller. So there's Hull. He's open. Belfour, the big save. And then Brown, a little cross pass. What a nice shot. And we've got a score tied at 3-3 as Shanahan holds the Blues even. That's a sharp angle, too. You know, it takes a lot of accuracy. He shoots it off the pass. He doesn't have much of an angle to shoot at. Brendan Shanahan does a lot of things very well, Mike.
Well, a goal scorer's type of goal. He had 51. His first of the playoffs from Brown and Hull at 11-12. And the game is tied at 3, and still on the power play, the Blues a 5-on-4 advantage. Emerson moves in. Circles and sends to Hull. He scores! Brett Hull with his first goal of the playoffs and his first really great scoring chance. And it is very quickly from a 1-goal deficit to a 1-goal lead for St. Louis.
Well, it starts with Emerson. He's going coast to coast. Good speed coming up the ice. You'll see him right from his own zone. And Hall's going to come late into the slot. Emerson's going to go wide on Marchment. He can't score from there. That's fine. But no one picks up Brett Hull. They're all busy watching the puck. You're coming back in your own zone. Your head has to be in a swivel. You've got to look around for the open man. You can't have everyone watching the puck. 2 defensemen behind the net. Chelios is one, Marchment the other, and Graham cannot get there in time.
Roenick with the blast and the save made by Joseph. So now the clock becomes the enemy of the Blackhawks.
The thing about players like Brett Hull, you limit their scoring chances, but they don't need that many to get a goal. Hull's first real good chance of the day is in the net.
Hedican had it knocked away by Roenick. Around behind, it is Murphy. Centers one. Unable to get to it was Muni. Rich Sutter able to bring it ahead. Tied up by Smith. Dumps it in and then takes a hit from Roenick. Clock winks down to 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Muni with a tap on. Matteau couldn't get to it, slugged away by Jeff Brown. Steve Smith going back. Wilson and Lowry buzzing nearby. But it's Muni outletting on to Brent Sutter. Moves in with Noonan. Noonan has 3 goals in the game, spins and hacks at one that went off of Brown. Chelios very coolly had to deal with Philippe Bozon's checking, then over for Marchment, off of Sutter and back in. No icing on this. Jeff Brown just angles one off the glass and back down. This time there will be icing. And the clock stops with 7:08 to go in the third, and the visiting St. Louis Blues have the lead by 1. The Hawks, who trail in the game by 1. Murray Barron off for Basil McRae. Pops it loose and Hull went after it. Chelios canceled with him and McRae moves in. Basil McRae stepped into by Roenick. Still they jostle on the boards. Shanahan trying to pick it loose but can't. Steve Larmer able to turn. Larmer with his team trailing by 1. 6:40 to go in the third. Sees Marchment blast one from 65. It's turned away by Joseph. Marchment bumped into by Zombo. Rick Zombo looking for an opening. And back up for Rich Sutter. The Blues have not gone into a shell. They're continuing to get it out as far as the line, dump in and chase.
Well, your best defense is a good offense. You want to play a protective mode of hockey. The best thing to do is get on the attack, get it in the Chicago zone, and forecheck. And the Blues are doing a good job of that. And look now, time is just winding down off the clock. The puck is not frozen. The Hawks are better to get a third guy in there, freeze the puck, and start fresh from a whistle.
Real strong check by Marchment. 6 minutes even to go now. Rich Sutter threw it across the goal mouth wide. Larmer gets it on to Joe Murphy. Escaped Zombo, but then was stepped into by Rich Sutter. And Jeff Brown bounces one back. Icing and the faceoff will come back near Joseph. 26 shots Blues, 19 Blackhawks. St. Louis ahead in the game, 4-3. Let's check in with Tom Mees.
All right, Mike, we got a great game here today, and it's a typically close playoff game between these two teams. Last year they played 6 tough games. No game decided by more than 2 goals. One game was decided in double overtime, so these two teams know each other very well. This looked to be the best matchup in my mind of the first round of the entire playoffs, and it's sure proving that way today with Brett Hull right now the hero for St. Louis with 5:44 left. Mike?
Well, Daryl Sutter mentioned yesterday that the series shifted for Chicago once Brent and Ron Sutter went after each other. They're brothers on opposing teams. And their teammates on both squads saw that and saw that blood had been set aside for the team. And even though Brett Hull won that third game in the second overtime and the Blues went ahead 2-1, the Blackhawks took the series with 3 straight. And behind the play, there has been a penalty. And it's going to be on Murray Barron. And so the Blackhawks will have a power play with 5:37 to go and a chance to tie it up.
Well, a roughing call, it looks like. Kerry Fraser throwing the fist as Barron goes to the box. Yes, a roughing it is. Bob Barry shouldn't be overly concerned. He does have a terrific penalty-killing unit. Certainly Curtis Joseph. He knows he can rely on him to make the big save. And this, partner, could be the game right here. This power play for the Blackhawks. When you're protecting a lead, as the Blues are, there's certain things you want to do. You want to maintain your offensive zone pressure. You want to eliminate any blind pass-outs. Once you're in the Chicago zone, you don't want to throw the puck from the corner blindly out front. If the Chicago players intercept it, you get your forwards caught. You want to make sure you gain your blue line, get over center, and get it in deep, and eliminate any cross-ice passes in your end of the rink. And if the Blues can kill this penalty, we'll see if they can do that. The other thing you want to eliminate are bad penalties, and that's one thing they didn't do.
Barron the rough at 14:23. Elapsed time in the period. We are down to 5 minutes and 22 seconds to go. The Blues have come from a goal down to take a goal lead on a 5-on-3 and then a 5-on-4 power play conversion. One by Shanahan and the other by Hall. The money guys that got all the goals for them this year did it again. But now the Blackhawks are presented with a chance to get back into a tie if they can convert a power play. Chelios put it off the skate of Zombo, and that time Joseph had to react quickly to tip it aside. Rich Sutter flips, blocked down by Smith. Finesse one just wide. It wasn't a big blast, but the soft one. Chelios finesses back over. Murphy with a pass that's tipped over for Roenick. Stepped into by Zombo. Joe Murphy walks right in front. Lobs one, and it's blocked down. Scramble for the puck. Backhander, another save, another. They poke at it. Still they go. And we get a stoppage of play, and the Blackhawks protesting. The puck wound up going to the far boards.
When you're killing a penalty, you have to work awfully hard to get possession of the puck. Once you get that possession, that puck has to get all the way down the ice. Rich Sutter had the puck, but he did not clear the zone. And as a result, you've got Chicago Blackhawks buzzing all over the St. Louis goaltender, Joseph, and he comes up with one save after another to keep a one-goal lead, and there it is. It does not go in. It's kept out of the net by one of the Blues defenders. Murphy almost has one. Joseph makes a save, and then the scramble ensues. And keep a close eye on this puck. Folks will see it going over the line, but it's going to be stopped right here as the Blue reaches out and grabs it. I believe that is Rich Sutter to prevent the puck from going into the net.
Kerry Fraser was right there, looked and allowed Sutter the notion of getting the puck swept out. If Sutter covered the puck, it would have been a penalty shot because he was doing it in the crease.
Bob Murray showing a lot of confidence in Brendan Shanahan. He was out for a big defensive face-off about 2 minutes ago, and now killing a penalty is out there with the other penalty killer, Wilson.
But the Blackhawks were questioning the notion of picking the puck up out of the crease. Ruutu, blocked by Brown. Ruutu again, and off of Brown. Smith can't take it just yet. 43 seconds to go on the power play to Chicago. 4:15 left in the third period. The Blackhawks trail by one. Ruutu to Noonan, who pivots. Back to Smith, across to Chelios. Chelios wrists one, and that kicked aside by Jeff Brown. Controlling is Miller. Kevin Miller makes them chase again, down to the last 22. Under 4 minutes to play in the third now. Here's Chelios. Calmly over to Russell. The big blast eaten up by Joseph. Swings it right up the slot. Liner blocked out in front. A terrible giveaway, but the Blues don't get burned. Lowry checked by Noonan. Penalty time is up. Butcher shovels it back out. 3.5 minutes to go. Even strength hockey. Murphy has to wait and then plays it back in. Curtis Joseph along now for Rich Sutter. Popped it back ahead and striding for it is Janney. Marchment there. Janney controlling. Looks for McRae. McRae controlling on the backhand. Stepped into by Jocelyn Lemieux, and down he goes. Off the wall, kept alive by Barron. Basil McRae again. Turns. McRae run into with authority again by Lemieux. Under 3 minutes to play. 4-3 St. Louis. The Hawks dump it in and pour after it. Joseph hanging on, and play is stopped. We will return to Chicago Stadium in a moment.
Rich Sutter definitely had his hand over the puck in the crease a few minutes ago when the Hawks were on the power play. He did sweep it aside, but he clearly covered it with his hand. That's what the Blackhawks were complaining about. From where I stand, which is 5 feet away, Mike, I think they had a point.
They've had to calm from that for right now, but undoubtedly if the score remains the same, they'll take it up at the end of the game. Their focus must shift, and it has. But we're at even strength and 2:45 to go in the third. Jeff Brown fires it around. It's taken by Belfour. Then across for Muni. Run in two, but missed mostly. Played by Graham ahead for Jocelyn Lemieux. Matched by Brown. Troy Murray breaking backhander. Oh, and a turnaround save made by Joseph. And it's swept away by Brown.
Garth Butcher got caught off the ice and enabled the Hawks to have a 2-on-1 situation. And Joseph has to come up with another tremendous save for the St. Louis Blues. Boy, this guy gets a lot of work. He's a very busy goaltender. You see the cross pass here, and there is Murray. How did that puck stay out of the net? Again, the Hawks drive to the net. Joseph stops it with the inside of his blocker.
Here's a look at our Visa storyline. Noonan the hat. Seems like a long time ago. Joseph, 22 saves. The last one, remarkable. And several others. The Blues with 2 power play goals in 17. Shanahan and Hall. And they're ahead by 1. The fans talk it up again. Puck cut off by Wilson and sent back down. And another icing. Another key face-off.
Wilson was allowed to move out freely to get that loose puck. There was a scramble between Shanahan and Roenick, and then the puck went loose along the boards. The Hawks have to do a better job of getting on that puck. They can't allow the Blues to come up with loose pucks in their zone. I mean, they're down a goal. There's only 2 minutes left. You've got to play a little bit of desperate hockey here, and someone has to beat Wilson to the puck if they're serious about tying this game up. Marchment's going off. Chris Chelios coming on. Chelios and Smith, of course, the big gunners from the point. And Roenick will try to win the draw. Back to them.
Can he beat Brendan Shanahan? Blues take it. Brent Hedican lays it back ahead. Nearly a 2-on-1. They might get it anyway. Wilson, a shot and a save by Belfour. Ahead with it. Now comes Roenick. Flying back out for the Hawks along with Larmer. And offside is called.
We talked about how Brett Hull was held to very few scoring chances. We haven't seen Chicago's Jeremy Roenick freewheeling up the ice as we're normally accustomed to either. So the St. Louis Blues deserve certainly a lot of credit for eliminating some of Jeremy's effectiveness. He's still been very effective along the boards in the corners, hitting guys, grinding, coming out with loose pucks. But we haven't seen that typical Roenick end-to-end Russian driving to the net with the puck on a stick that we're so accustomed to seeing, Mike.
All right, Coach, now, when do you rest Roenick if you need him out there at the end? We've got 2:02 to go, and he's out there now.
Well, you figure there'll be 2 timeouts called. Barry's going to call one, and Sutter's going to call one. Plus, you can stall on your line changes. I would look to see Roenick on the ice for the final 2 minutes of this game, as I would expect to see Larmer, Chelios, and Smith. Use your timeout. You know the defending team, when you have a face-off in their end, is going to use their timeout. That's going to give you 30 plus 30, 60 seconds of rest. He's taking them off the ice. I'm a little surprised at that. Maybe he has some faith in Matteau and Sutter and Noonan. Of course, Noonan with a hat trick. Maybe that's not a bad guess.
It is Hedican. Under 2 minutes. Hedican really hit by Noonan. Puck around the boards, wiping out, but getting it in deep remarkably was Chelios. Hedican held off, and so Basson has to play. Rich Sutter is there. Popped one along, that is followed up by Chelios for a shot that shanked off a St. Louis skate. Brent Sutter along to Chelios again, moving right in. Chelios lost it off his stick on some tight checking from behind by Miller, and so Joseph can hang on.
You watch the Blues as they change their line. They're coming out very slowly, 1 man at a time, biding as much time as they can for their defensive players. It'll take a long time to make their line changes here. Chelios does a real good job keeping this puck in at the blue line. Now he's driving to the net. This is desperation time for the Blackhawks. You've got to go. You need your gunners to go. Miller does a good job putting the little tug on Chris Chelios, and he loses the puck right into the pads of Curtis Joseph.
Along with Jim Schoenfeld and Tom Mees, Mike Emmerich from Chicago Stadium, we hope you're enjoying this one. We sure are. There has been uncertainty as to the outcome constantly through this. The best lead was Chicago's by 2, but it really wasn't a secure lead. Now the Blues have the lead of 1.
Yeah, you expect to see that in this series. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth series, a 6 or 7 game, and it's going to be a tough grind for whoever comes out of here.
Butcher lays it along. Smith crunches there with Dave Lowry. 2 aside, and it's held to the wall again with 1:25 to go.
Interesting note there, you have Wilson taking the faceoff. The faceoff was to the left of goalie Curtis Joseph. He's a left-hand draw. He's drawing on his backhand back into the corner for the right-hand faceoff. To the right side of Joseph, you'll see Shanahan, who is a right-hand shooter, drawing on his backhand. So Bob Barry's thinking all the time he's got the right people on the ice for the situation, and they're doing the job extremely well to this point. There's 1:25 left in the third period.
Daryl Sutter's got the guys he wants out there now, Roenick and Larmer. And his best face-off man, Brent Sutter. For the Blasts, if they can get it there, Smith and Chelios. And it's Smith to Chelios. Wrists one. Fanned on by Jeff Brown, centered. But kicked right back again. Brent Sutter hustles after it. Smith a drive, and it went off of Brown. Moving in is Chelios. Chopped along by Wilson. Walking in is Roenick. Taken down. Loose puck there. Picked up and thrown back out by Wilson. Ed Belfour may be coming to the bench shortly. Right now he stays out to paddle this one ahead to Smith, and it went by him. So Belfour has to stay in. The Blackhawks are taking a chance. They will try to get Belfour off and go with 6 attackers, leaving their net open, a yawning 4x6 cage. The pass up the wing, Dirk Graham in and a drive, and that one got the glass. Into the seats with 43.9 to go. Belfour is at the bench, and the Chicago net is empty.
And I think that faceoff's going to come outside the blue line as it went right over. I don't think Joseph got a piece of that puck. The shot was taken by Graham right over top of the net, and it went sailing out over the glass. So the faceoff comes outside the blue line, and someone is calling a timeout here. I believe it's Daryl Sutter at the Chicago bench.
Well, we need a breather too, and I'll bet you do. We'll be right back. The timeout has been taken. Belfour is back in the Chicago net. But he'll try to get to the bench quickly. He can't do it yet because of Rich Sutter's drop back in the zone. Smith taking it. Half a minute to go. Smith moves out. Belfour does too. Heads to the bench. The extra man out is Joe Murphy. Joseph there. And along it is sent by Barron and all the way back down.
What a good play by Zombo. He gets a puck and he turns up short instead of going behind the net into traffic. A little thing, but it gets the Blues out of a lot of trouble.
Zombo across now, and it's sent back in by Basson. Chelios turning away. Fans are turning away to leave now. Chelios with a long blast. Eaten up by Joseph. And Curtis Joseph has registered a victory with his Blues teammates in the first game of the best of 7, the Norris Division semifinal over the Chicago Blackhawks, the division champions in the regular season. For Jim Schoenfeld and Tom Mees, Mike Emmerich from Chicago Stadium, the final, St. Louis 4, the Blackhawks.